to adopt the agenda. It's only to deal with the budget, so,
So moved.
okay. Moved by,
I'll second.
second by Bob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's move forward. Item number 3 is to review the budget, and Ron, you probably have some opening words, because we have some new information in front of us. And please, everything's so formal here. I wish it didn't appear that way. You know, we've just had the budget's been very complex this year, and so it's had to go through several swizzles to get it to where we are right now. And I think we're gonna find the ultimate, conclusion today. And so let's have some, even though it's a budget, let's have some fun with this all. So Ron?
Not too much fun.
Not too much fun, yeah.
All right. Got a couple of things in front of you I just want to cover real quick. First, appreciate all department heads being here. Again, they're open to any questions, conversation, discussion y'all might have about their operational budgets. Just so department heads know, they've got my proposed budget in front of them. You'll notice in the columns, on page, I think it's page 3 of all your departments, you'll see the line items, what you've done over the past couple of years, your recommendation, and then my recommendation to town council. And so what the board is actually gonna be operating off of mostly is that information based on the manager's recommendation. So, as you look through that, of course, most of us have had time to talk. A couple of you I don't think I've caught up with, but, for the most part, I think everybody has talked to me about my manager recommendations, so. Couple of things in front of you. What I like to do is keep track of the changes that have been made from one budget meeting to the next. So this is the most important sheet that you'll receive today. This has, the Morris Park restrooms going in as loan proceeds. That's gonna show $94,000 in revenue and then $94,000 in expenditures. What that does do is free up about $43,600 for you. That removes it from capital and debt service, so again, that's about $43,600 right off the bat that you're to review right now. You haven't had any adjustments in your water and sewer fund or your electric fund, so those totals stand solid as of right now.
Ron, I see these changes are as of May the 24th, but what about from our May 31st meeting? Did you have any other changes that aren't on here?
No, that was the total, the grand totals were presented to May 24th.
Okay.
That's the changes since the 24th
Okay.
that I've made to the budget sheets.
All right.
Second thing that I've done for you real quick is some of you have talked to me about some needs that are not identified in the budget. The Parks and Recreation Small Area Plan for about $25,000. The Hydro Dam Plan, which was part 2, I left off for whatever reason. That's an easy fix, and in fact, that can be done just by transferring a few line items.
You said plan, is that the inspection thing?
Right, the safety.
Okay, that we did 25 this year and 25 next year? Got it.
The salary study, we've had a lot of discussion over the last few days about the salary study. The second sheet that you have in front of you talks about phase 1 and 2 of the salary study. That totaled about $1,000, $984. That is included in your proposed budget. The COLA at 1.5%, which is $28,800, that's included in your proposed budget. What's not included in your proposed budget was phase 3 of that salary study, and that's about $50,100. And then the longevity, which we were asked about, is not included in your budget, and that's $42,400. So those are the needs that y'all have made me aware of, that are not included right now in your budget, proposed budget. You also asked me to take a look at some areas where I felt that we still had some room to cut. I did not delve into operation budgets. What I did find again was that $43,600 from the restrooms. Dredging, we have to spend $300,000. I had budgeted $350,000. So you have about $50,000 in dredging that you could tap into. There is a part-time employee employee for the public information officer. If we take that back to contract, that's gonna save you $10,700. And there are some items in capital, there's about 4 items in capital that could be delayed until next year. The tennis courts, because we haven't done the plan, which is on your other page, the cart path and the beach house and radios in the police department. Those total about 65.6. So you could actually see how some of this can wash out. You can take your small area plan for 25,000, you know, hold off on the tennis courts until that plan is done, and that'll pay for that there and leave you about $10,000 to work with. So those were just, again, very sort of 30,000 feet in the air, kind of look at this budget. We certainly are willing to delve deeper if we need to, but I think those totals sort of help pay for some of those additional items that y'all are looking for. Do you have any questions before?
Just one on the cart path, is that the one that goes through Morse Park, the paving?
Through Morse Park? No, this is for the golf course.
Okay.
Yeah, for the golf course. We have some areas out there that desperately need some work. Y'all probably see them. What we had planned was $5,000 over the next 5 years, I think it was, in order to go through and pave those worst sections. I hate to cut it, but again, we can do some work with our crews and stuff to help him out, just to get him through one more year maybe. But- Okay, also, welcome the fire chief, appreciate you being here. I know y'all had a question about his budget.
I did.
And so we've got that here for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got questions.
Okay. So, unless y'all have any questions, I'll just let y'all take it from here.
One of the things, when we were talking the other day, is it, can't we, I mean, you had the 43.6 in black, like, that's a sort of a good way, and it's sort of a decision that we can make fairly easily. Can't we make the decision on the 50,000 for dredging fairly easily and put that in black?
What do you
I'm
mean,
asking
taking the 50 out of dredging?
Yeah.
No, I disagree. And based on our conversation the other day, at the most I would agree to is taking only 25 of it for repurposing, taking 25.
How did you come
All
up?
right, we had 4,000 requested, 400,000 requested. 350 is a manager recommendation. We have to spend at least 3 in order to get the 150,000 grant back. All right, we have to spend 300,000. And I think tying ourselves to exactly that 300,000 number is a mistake. I would say no more or no less than 325 this year to be allocated for dredging.
So
That
so
would
your
only
your
take-
concern
That would only
is,
take 25 of it.
okay, so your concern is we wouldn't spend the 300,000? So,
No, I'm concerned that if we go over the 300 and tie ourselves to only the 300, then we're gonna have a shortfall. We have to spend at least 300. If we go over that, but for any reason that might occur during the process of the dredging, that $25,000 buffer needs to be there.
I don't know.
I'll go with
that.
It's just being protected, so you got a little fudge factor.
So, I hear you. So, why don't we, then we can put, for right now, for just discussion purposes, why don't we put down in nice black, 25,000? Is that acceptable to the commissioners?
Yeah.
Yes.
We use
Yeah,
a
I would
different color
line out
pen.
to
Blue
50
is
and put
fine.
25. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we have it, right now, 68.6 that we,
Now,
Have
the
gotten
Morris
back.
Park restrooms, we're just looking at doing a loan for those, correct?
Right.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go.
And your payments are built into the, budget, the loan payments.
The loan payments will hit next year, so what we do is we budget the loan proceeds as a revenue,
Yeah.
and the marina or the Morris Park restrooms as an expense, so they kind of wash out that first year.
Yeah, but as far as, budgeting for payments, we don't have payments until the next budget we do.
So it'd be roughly about 17.5.
So that'd be the 18-19 budget
Yeah.
for the debt
So
service.
you'll have an increase of about $17,000.
So our ongoing
for 5 years.
expense, we need to look at it as if we've got that other, 17 or 18,000 coming out.
That's right.
Or we'll be,
And then while on that same topic, we've got the small area plan,
Yeah, the
But we've
Morris
got the
Park
fund.
plan,
right? We need to see where we can get money for that.
these are the areas where you're trying to save some money and not spend it right now.
That's right.
Right, so that'd be,
Yeah, these were suggested savings.
Right,
I
but
think that's a good
the other page is the stuff we need more money for, right? Or we need to allocate that was not previously
Well,
funded.
again, these are based on individual conversations that I've had with board members. This has not been collectively decided, so that's
Right.
what you're doing today.
right,
Well,
That's right.
before we do the restrooms, we need that daggum Morse Park plan.
That's
Right.
correct.
We've got to have that, and part of that may be, hey, as a result of that plan, we don't want the tennis court there now or later. We're looking at a plan for 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, 50 years down the road of what we want to do with Morse Park and where we want to put that restroom facility permanently and what else we want to do. So we may not want to do that tennis court there, leave it there. We may want to move it somewhere else in the long run.
the two things we need the plan, but the other thing is we've got to get these restrooms done before next September.
Right, so we need the plan first,
So those two items.
and we haven't allocated any money for that plan yet.
So do I see a general shake of heads that,
Yeah.
that 25,000 for sure?
Yeah, we've got to do that.
Okay, so what I would suggest then is here, I would just back that out and create that $10,000, that tennis court resurfacing.
And go into.
$10,000 for a temporary fix.
No, yeah, I would remove that project until the plan's done. You can go back and then reallocate your
Okay.
fund balance if you want to do that. But like you said, it may move to somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would
Right,
knock this
scratch.
out,
Right,
use that 25,000, and this becomes 10,000, if that makes sense.
yes,
So that's, instead of 35,000 that you had to play with, now it's only 10,000.
right,
Okay, all right.
okay. And we do need to stay focused on these projects. As far as that small area plan, we need to get that kicked off and going right now.
Right. We have already agreed to this one, so this is a wash, and that can easily be handled in hydro now, so I can take care of that one without. an
So
additional-
that money comes out of hydro
It comes out of
reserve?
hydro, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
So that one can be handled. So, do you wanna talk about the salary study now?
Sure.
That's probably the biggest one now.
Right.
Okay. Would y'all like to lead, or do you want me to?
Well,
Who wants to
y-
lead?
you know where I feel, first of all, I think you ought to get you were very humble in leaving off your particular raise. I think you ought to get that. The second thing is, I think we ought to recognize that, I think everybody agrees here, the value of the people in town. And so we want to make those things happen. And what we talked about behind closed doors was maybe a sequence to get those things accomplished that would make them happen or let them happen in a different sequence than was in the current plan. Is that a fair assessment? Steve, you were
Yep.
part of that discussion?
Well, and didn't you, weren't you contemplating some, adjustments to your organizational chart?
I was, and that sort of complicates some of the salary adjustments. But again, as the mayor and I talked, we have to separate out those kind of decisions versus the salary study. So the salary study, David Hill basically came in and did a comparison of our pay and said that overall, we paid our employees fairly for the work that they were doing. And he recommended 3 changes, 3 phases. One, and I can draw this up to make it a little bit easier to understand, because I know it gets confusing. All right, with pay scale studies, you have, as everybody knows, a minimum range, a max range, and then you have a midpoint. And if I say something, if I say something wrong, I need you to jump in here, okay? You really have a 0 here to about a 50% here. And this, of course, midpoint, 25%. So the first thing in your salary study that you want to do
is when you adjust these scales for the job that that person's doing, you wanna make sure everybody is at this minimum bar. We had 2 employees, that were below that minimum. So phase 1 takes those 2 employees that are down below the minimum and moves them up to that first step in your pay scale. That's the $1,000 roughly that's in there, okay? The second part of that phase was compression. If you can imagine, there are 2.5 increments between here and that 25%. Compression means that if we hire a police officer right here, and that, I'm sorry, we have a police officer that is at this 2.5% or 5%, and this bar changes enough so that a new police officer comes in and is making roughly the same thing as an officer who's been here 3 to 5 years, that's called compression. You don't want a lot of that compression. We don't have a lot of it. I think the board has done a real good job at keeping salaries where they should be. We had a few employees, maybe 2 or 3, that we had to adjust based on that compression. Okay, so that moves the person, I'm gonna pick on Andy, because Andy was one of those employees that was below the minimum. She moved up to here, and let's just say, for whatever reason, we hire a new town clerk, she would be making the same thing as the new town clerk. So we had to bump Andy to take care of compression.
And that's all part of that phase 1 and 2.
Phase 1 and 2 are already included in
Okay.
your budget.
Right.
Okay. Now, third phase is a little more complicated. And this is probably where I'm gonna need Andy's help, or Anita's help. By your 10th year for public employees, the rule of thumb is you want them to be at your midpoint. So the idea of your pay scale is to move employees along, and that's 10 years in their current position, not 10 years with the town. That's 10 years in the current position. So if you have somebody that has been with us 6 years, we want to make sure that they're roughly in this general area here. So if you have an employee that's only received a cost of living increase and is down here, what you're doing then is bumping them up to that 6 year to make sure that they're in that category. Phase 3 does that. We had 12 positions that, based on their length of service, needed to be moved to where they would be roughly at the midpoint by their 10th year with the town.
Is that regardless of performance?
Well, the idea with the pay salary study, yes, is that the employee that's been here 2 years plus are already doing exactly what they should be. They're performing adequately. If not, they should have been terminated, dealt with, whatever that was in a personnel matter, prior to getting to here. So if we have a performance issue, that should have already been dealt with that first couple of years. So yes, it's outside, pay plans are outside of longevity, cost of living, bonuses. You know, this is just the position.
It's a pure study.
This is pure study on the
Relative
position.
to other
That's right.
communities.
With your organizational, chart adjustments, if some of those that you're contemplating are made, could it have an effect on some of these positions that are being considered here?
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, I think we should put this part of it off until the organizational chart is revised to where it needs to be, and then go back and reevaluate it, because you wouldn't want to have a situation where there was an adjustment made, and then the chart changed that. People make plans and so forth. So I would be for revisiting this after the organizational chart is upgraded.
Well, let me ask you this. Originally in our budget, you presented us with the numbers for phase 1 and 2, already in the budget.
Yes, sir.
And your plan was to do phase 3 next year.
That's correct.
Would that not give you the time to do the reorganization and then present us a phase 3 and numbers for phase 3 based on the reorganization?
It would, but I do understand, at least from the employee's perspective, that we've done a pay study, that several positions are out of
I understand that too.
and that they feel like it should be taken care of sort of immediately.
Right.
You know, this was a tight budget year, and so what I chose to recommend to you was taking care of phase 1 and 2, which we needed to do immediately. Phase 3, over the next year, normally, I need to hope this is right, but normally, your pay study is good for 2 years. So what that means is that we have roughly 2 years to work on how to pay for this initial plan.
Because it's off the 2016
Well,
Yeah,
And-
I
and-
agree it
I'd
could be
just like to-
updated
Well,
after 2
I'll-
years, but this is the first one we've had in a long time. I
Oh,
wouldn't
I
say
know.
that it's got a
That's-
2-year expiration date on it.
No, what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that by then, you should go back in and look at those
Right.
positions
I,
again.
I want to say that I asked the question about waiting till next year after the organization, and that is without regard to anybody's performance or quality or position or anything. I'm trying to look at this strictly from a budget standpoint, and I have to do that. So I want everybody to understand that. It's not anything personal, anybody, so.
Well, I'd just like to say it's been a number of years that we have done nothing or have done a cost of living only. We have some people who are below what they should have been making a number of years ago. And I feel like we need to address those because we need those people who have been underpaid and sort of frozen with everybody else to be able to make a living wage. Their rent, if they're renting, has gone up. Their cost of living has gone up far beyond what our COLAs have covered. And I want our people to have a living wage. Those are the ones I'm concerned about doing something about now.
Yeah. And let me just say, that's an excellent point, because the next step after phase 3 is there's actually a phase 4. And phase 4 is a pay philosophy. And this board has never adopted a pay philosophy. And the pay philosophy says to the employees that, yes, we value you, you're important, but we just don't think 50% is the right place. We actually think, and I think it's Hickory, was it Hickory? Somebody else, Morganton, had said, you know, we really think our employees should be paid at 65% of that scale. So they adopted a pay philosophy that said we're going to pay our employees more for that same reason.
But that's somebody that's been here more than 10 years in the current job.
No, that's for this range right here.
No, it's competing with the
It's-
other towns that may lure them away from us.
Yeah, it's to say that we're just not happy with the market rate for a police officer. We're gonna pay them 15% more. than the
Well,
market rate.
I disagree with part of what was said in the fact that we've done nothing, because we have done a lot. We've done bonuses, we've done longevity, even just this past year, and we have done the COLA every year. Initially, 2.5% was proposed, but again, it's a tight budget, and that was cut to a 1.5. Again, this is not in any way intended to diminish the value of anybody, and I want to get that point out. But I don't understand implementing phase 3 right now if a reorganization is planned.
I agree.
I just don't understand that, and
Okay.
I guess that's what you need to sell me on, to say yes.
If, you know, if we look at our total that we've spent on payroll and what goes with it over the last 10 years, you know, it's increased. Now, some of that may be, you know, some people have, you know, we've added some positions, but a lot of positions have gone away too. So, I agree with Stephen. We've had some adjustments and we want to stay, I agree with the with the idea of staying on the leading edge
And being competitive.
and
yeah.
being competitive. Well, more than being competitive, actually staying
Yeah.
on the leading edge. But what's giving me a little heartburn right now is the fact that we're looking at making some of these adjustments before we do the organizational chart, revamp, if that's what we're gonna do. You're kinda getting the cart before the horse, and I don't think it would take 6 months to do that. Perhaps we could make that a priority and go ahead and get that done and come back and revisit this, afterwards.
How long do
Okay.
you feel it'll take to do the reorganizational?
Well, that depends on the board, because, at least with one department, it would be a complete restructure. And so, I'm not sure how much buy-in I have from the board yet that that's the right thing to do, so.
It sounds like we've got some discussions to
We've got some
have
discussions.
that need to take place before we get this.
When do you wanna discuss those with council?
Anytime, I was gonna say, but, one of the things you might consider is, a January implementation. That'll give us 6 months. That'll at least give employees,
A date?
some assurance that
Well,
it's out there.
We're doing the first 2 phases, but what you're looking for now then is assurance that, we would make these adjustments based on the old organizational chart. But what I'm saying is we need the new organizational chart and then come back and look.
I hear you.
Yeah, I can't be in favor of of making the phase 3 adjustments before you do your reorganization.
But what I will say
I humbly disagree. And I think that the biggest thing has to do with the study was done, was commissioned by us, the study was done, and, but I will yield on the fact that we don't have to do it now. As long as the expectation is there, that there's a date certain that this will get implemented based on a new organization. I don't think we should say words like revisit it, because that's
Well,
loose.
okay,
I
here-
would-
then
I would
let
like
me
to
say
see a date
this.
certain.
Then let me commit to this. I am not opposed to implementing phase 3, but I don't think it should be done prior to the reorganization.
And I'll be glad to say, why don't we commit for January 1, it will be implemented with a reorganization, based
based
on the
on-
reorganizational chart.
Based on the
Right,
reorganization
and that
of
gives,
the position.
and that way we got a date certain for everybody they can count
Right.
on. January 1, it must be,
Well, yeah,
Implemented.
and I think in fairness to, whoever might be affected on this, and I don't remember all the positions, that, that nobody should be promised yet, don't go buy a new car saying, well, I'm gonna be getting this on January 1st, because it may or may not. It just depends on where
Right.
the organization, and that's why, if we're gonna do that, it can be, and there's no reason we need to wait till January to do it. We could do it prior to then.
well, I want to give Ron the time he needs to do
Yeah.
it, and plus there's going to be
Yeah, how much time
discussions,
you
but
need?
I want a date certain for our
Yeah.
employees to
I mean,
have.
there's a whole lot of folks I feel ought to be getting more money,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
we
But you
just
gotta
gotta
do it
approach
right.
it the right way.
Yeah, you gotta do it right, and there's nothing, and I'm gonna say it again, we wanna stay on the leading edge, but we also, doing the implementation before the study, before the reorganization done, is the cart before the horse, if it's ever been a
Yeah.
cart before the horse.
Well, if we go with the phase 1 and phase 2, does that take care of the lowest paid who are below
Yes.
the recommended scale? That's a must.
And I think we all
Yeah,
support
we got
that.
that,
Yeah.
It takes care of any potential compression too, right?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So,
Let me ask another question. What, I hear to my right, different things from the left. Why not a date certain of January 1st? And that says we get all the organizational stuff done, we can make it sooner. Let's do a date certain.
we
there's-
did,
I think
Huh?
everybody agrees to January 1.
Okay.
we did.
Okay,
You okay with that,
that's
Mary?
fine,
So I
Okay.
think we're all in agreement.
But it follows the reorganization as opposed
Yeah,
to
it follows,
proceeding.
it follows the reorganization, so numbers that are in certain places now, that may not be where they end up.
Right.
So it needs to be crystal clear to everyone, don't spend money before you get it.
okay, so we fixed that one.
And
it's
the
like-
amount, right now, you're anticipating 25, based on a January 1, and that amount might actually fluctuate a little bit or another based on the reorganization.
Yeah,
And
So-
what we would do, Sam would bring you back a budget amendment. If we
Right.
went early, or if we went late, it would just adjust that.
yeah, it could be less, it could be more, it could, we just don't know, and so that's,
And then we need to go ahead and get on that also. Those will probably have to be closed sessions for some of that discussion, or would that be it?
Now,
Okay, let's
now,
go.
you got longevity in there too. I mean, if we're ready to move on.
Yeah, I just-
I sort of do it until I see a majority of the heads.
Right,
yeah.
right, everybody says
Yeah,
January.
I'm okay, January 1 after the reorganization.
Okay, all right. So longevity, as you know, that there were, and you know, something real quick. I've heard a lot of this lately, and I just need to say it in front of department heads. I cannot fix what was done or not done prior to me getting here. So there were studies, adjustments, things that were done to salaries and things. This board will need to fix that. What I can do is move forward based off of this study. So I just want you all to know that's sort of my position, and how I handle, salary, adjustments. So just know that I can't fix what's happened or haven't happened.
And you wouldn't have done what was done.
Well, I'm not saying that, I mean, but
I
what I'm
would.
saying is I can't go back and fix that.
Right,
So-
got it.
So what I'm doing is starting fresh, okay?
Got it.
Starting with this salary study, okay? Longevity was the second thing that was brought up. As y'all know, we waited until the end of the fiscal year to see if that we had any leftover money. That was then allocated for longevity and bonuses. As you know, I had a little bit of heartache with the bonuses. I have not budgeted any bonuses for that. The one thing that I do regret is not having enough money to budget longevity, because I do think that's an important part of it.
Well, longevity is a permanent raise in salary,
That's correct.
not a bonus, correct? And it's based on the time of being here and being employed.
So based on the past history of longevity, that would cost an additional $42,000.
Right.
That was one thing that I was hoping to sort of wait for that discussion until a little later on, but I think it does deserve.
Well, now I think in the past where we've done the bonuses and then we've given them an extra so much as a longevity amount, but it wasn't a raise, it was actually like a bonus, correct? So what we paid in longevity before was not a raise, not a permanent raise based on time here and working in the town.
Oh, sorry. So it was just the check bonus.
Right.
Yes.
And
And the
are we
bonus-
proposing a raise based on longevity versus a bonus type
Yeah,
longevity?
I mean,
And what would this do to benefits and all of that, see?
it does adjust it. This includes benefits, but,
So
you know, I look at longevity as increasing that salary.
that's what that's the way I view longevity.
Well, it not only increases the salary, but all the other additional expenses on,
Benefits.
Benefits, yeah.
right.
That number includes FICA, everything, that's total out of pocket.
FICA, that's what
Okay.
And what that does too, I mean, and you wanna talk about being leading edge, when you go to a longevity raise system, you're gonna be a lot more competitive than on the leading edge, I believe, as opposed to doing a bonus type longevity payment.
If I remember correctly, but we had the bonus that was given out once a year at Christmas time. And so there was a calculation that was used, I think to distribute that, it was a flat amount. Flat amount.
It's $100 per year. Is
So I think this,
The bonus was $100 more. Let's see, what I did, I took the $1,000 and divided it up for anybody that had
not the
been
bonus,
here.
the longevity,
Oh, the longevity, it was a
100 a year.
100 a year.
Yeah.
so to me, I think that there may be some confusion in terms. Longevity would be a permanent salary increase and you'd adjust benefits accordingly.
Right.
But this was a way to calculate the bonus
Yeah.
based on years of service. So in the end, if anything, it was a bonus as to what we had received. a one-time payment, but it was based on years of service.
Yeah,
That's how it was calculated.
That's
Right.
It wasn't quote longevity.
Based on how much money was left over at the end of the year.
Right.
That's right.
Right, but this year, you have used most of that money, the surplus, to cover other issues in the new budget.
Yeah.
Now, so that's important, I think, to bring
Yeah,
out.
It's important, because Sam and I sat down and said, okay, realistically, how much money can we expect for, increased revenues over expenditures? We said conservatively, $150,000.
Well-
And what we did is we plugged that back in to the budget.
If we approve the longevity as a salary increase, we're also changing policy, because the policy manual right now calls for that amount of money based on the number of years as a payment.
That's right.
Correct.
It's just an in-house.
Right, right. And so we're basically changing policy here with approval of this budget item.
Right. And what we would do is bring back,
Something else that would change too, if they do that, and it's like a pay increase, that would probably, reduce some of this pay adjustment too.
Now, how did you determine the longevity amount? A percentage or what?
$100 based on a year's service, similar to what states in the policy,
Okay.
Per year?
per year, $100 per year, based on the number of years. that you
So
serve.
each year that increase is $100 for each person in it.
That's right.
Now, and if I recall, people with, was it 6 months or less were not eligible, or 6 months or more, or what?
What we was doing is give them $50 if they had been here less than a
Well,
year. For like
So if
6
they were here
months.
1 year or less than a year, they didn't get a bonus, except for the $50.
That's right, or
But-
we would take the.
But over
bonus
the
and
year,
prorate.
$100 per year was what was paid.
That's right.
Okay. And so longevity, we're talking salary increase, starting at what point of time with the town?
We need to
6
work on-
months, or
we
a
need to
year,
work out-
or what?
This is only calculated based on everybody's length of service. That's all this is right now,
Okay, but the length of service starting what, at 1 year?
at 1 year.
Okay.
For every year you're here, you get 100.
So if you're a new employee and been here 6 months,
You get 50.
you wouldn't get anything under this longevity raise system.
For those less than a year, you got $50. 1 year was 100. Am I saying this right? 1 year 100, 2 years 200, 3 years 300.
But
With no
don't,
cap.
but don't we already give a 5% increase after being here 6 months?
For brand new employees.
Right.
That's
So they come in, they get hired at a certain rate, 6 months later, if they're still here, they get a 5% increase. And then a month later during budget or something, you wanna give them another $50 for longevity. I don't agree with that. They get the 5% increase at the end of the 6 months, and then the next year, they're eligible for the $100 per year. Or the the raise, it's an
That's
actual
fine.
raise.
We can switch it however you like.
Yeah.
Well, we were not ready to discuss longevity policy.
Well, why are you discussing it with me?
Well,
That does
If
make
you want
sense.
longevity in the budget, I need to put some money there, and that was the best way, the fastest way to get some money set aside for it. That's what this does, is put 42,000 for longevity. If you tell me you'll save, $100, no, there were 3 people that was under a year, so $150, you'll save $150 if you
Well,
decide that.
I think a longevity raise system is much better than the $100 per year that doesn't raise anything. So,
Okay.
That would help with the salary study, wouldn't it?
It would.
of course it would.
So are we in agreement that he ought to put that in the budget?
I don't have any problem.
Minus the 150, the weeds, we can work on the
Well,
weeds.
yeah,
Right, we got,
We still have some work
fine
to do on
tune it.
this, but what I'm saying is it is not included in your proposed budget for next year.
okay. I make a motion, we include that in the budget
I'll second.
as a salary increase, type longevity raise system.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, just the one asterisk, how about Ron? Do we still have that 2.5%?
I want to make a motion that we go ahead and give him this, read to 2.5%.
Okay.
Now, is that gonna be effective when we pass the budget or on his 1 year? like we had
One's
talked.
1 year anniversary.
So that's July 31st,
July,
one August.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'd say take it out of this year's budget, right?
Well, this budget, yeah.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah, I'm generous, yeah. Go ahead.
You knew that was coming.
So now what we have is $92,400 in extra needs. Did I figure that right? Let's see. 25's 50. plus
Yeah, the
40.
25 wash it, wash
Yeah,
and the
so
hydro.
90
Yeah, the hydro.
All right, so you have 92,400.
Just let you know, that's a quick $1 million in 10 years.
So, really, you've got that. You just need to tell me which ones you prefer over some others, sort of pick and choose. It's like a menu now.
Is it appropriate at this point in time to have Gary talk
I
about?
was gonna say, it's
Yeah,
several
'cause
of these
before
farm
we-
Yeah, I'd like to get
Before
him
we get
done
down to
and
the
out of
bottom
here.
line,
Okay, so that's where we're at right now.
If
Thank
I,
you.
I could probably make Gary's shorter, because I'm the one that had questions on it that I know of.
You can, shorter.
Yeah. Gary, you proposed a budget of 91,000 some odd dollars, and what was recommended was 78, basically the same thing you had last year. My question to you is this: if you don't have that extra $12,000 to $13,000 that you requested, what are you not going to be able to do or have or buy that you would have done with that 13? And what operational impact does it have on you?
If we had to do without that, and there was no other means, there is a possibility, and maybe more than a possibility, that we applied for a reimbursement from FEMA on some of the expenses we had during the Grey Rock fire. When that will be approved, and how much it will be approved, and when the check we'll get a check, or if we'll get a check, I can tell you. If we get the entire amount that we asked for, it would offset that 13,000, and we'd be okay. Without it, and I'm assuming knowing FEMA and the federal government, I'm not waiting in line next week to get a check from them. We would have to make some cuts somewhere. Probably what we would do would be to cut the money down that we've been putting into our emergency fund and the truck fund, without having to hurt equipment purchases for the coming year. And what we typically try to do the last 2 or 3 years is to get our emergency fund up to $50,000, which we've reached, and then start working on the truck fund. And we budgeted, I think it was 10,000 for each one of those this year. So if we don't get the 13, we'll probably have to take half out of each one to offset that 13,000. So we wouldn't have to leave off equipment repairs or purchases.
Okay, let's see.
Our revenue from other sources is gonna be down this year, and that's, it's no fault of the town, that's just, our county revenues are gonna drop about almost $3,000, that's because of the rural area out in Grey Rock. The collection rate out there was like 66% this year, so it's dropping about almost $3,000. We're anticipating our donations would come back to more normal range, because last year we had some generous donations during that,
Yeah.
Party Rock fire. We also had a lot of expenses we had to pay out, and that's what we're trying to recoup to FEMA right now. So if we are at the 78 instead of the 91, then our recourse would probably be to cut in half what we put into that truck fund, or hold off on putting anything into it this year.
I
We
think
did
you,
put more in this current year than we normally have in the last 2 or 3 years because of the donations that we received. Next year, we had budgeted 10 in each, and we would just have to take that 13 and decide how
Okay.
we're gonna.
Now, the emergency fund, you said you reached your 50,000.
We are at about what we.
And your truck fund, what's your goal in your truck fund?
If
we do what we done with the other truck, we ended up spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000 to upgrade it. If we do an upgrade on this truck in 5 years, you're probably looking at $100,000, but maybe the upgrade, that's just a rough figure, I haven't put any pencil to it yet. If we do basically the same thing we done to the other one, with inflation and everything, you're probably looking at spending over $100,000 doing
So-
that. If you replace the truck, you're probably looking at a $400,000 purchase that would be spread out over.
Okay, so let's say it's 13,000 shortfall. So, some smart money management, you could handle it and work with it, is basically what I'm hearing. But again, operationally, does it impact you? Does it prevent you from doing something that you need to do?
As far as purchases, no, it would not. Operationally, no, it would not. We would simply back that money out of the money we're gonna put into the truck fund, which would
Okay.
delay us another, a year
Okay.
of getting it to where we wanna get it to.
May I ask a question of Ron? And I don't want to put you on the spot because I haven't discussed this ahead of time. But a number of years ago, on our tax bills, we separated out a fire tax from the town budget. And that was set aside for the fire departments. An increase in the fire department, would that not require an increase in that fire tax rather than have an impact on the rest of our budget?
It could, but I'll tell you what I did. We took the 8.5 cent for the fire tax, and that's what funds his operational personnel budget. The extra employee is equivalent to what's your over in the fire tax. So what was it, about 8.75? So if you include the new employee, you're at about 8.75 on the fire tax. Now what that means is the 8.5 would come from fire tax. The general fund would be supplementing the fire department, that extra 0.75.
Well, okay, I was not aware of that, and it sounds like we're getting back into moving fire expense as a part of our budget. Is that the way we should go, or should we keep them separate?
From bookkeeping, you can keep them separate. For us, it's still a general fund expenditure. And so what we say is that, out of the magic total of tax dollars that come in, 8.5 cents is going to fund that fire department. Boards can either fund less than that or more than that. I mean, it's entirely up to you. But you set your tax rate, and Sam, help me out, but the county does not separate that tax rate from the 8.5% from the 27?
Right. You
So
get the, yeah.
you get the full amount.
Right, that was just our commitment
That was
from
your
the council.
commitment. That's
Council
right.
did set that aside.
And we actually adjusted that one year. We went up
Yes.
on the 8 or whatever it was and down on the other to offset. But that was based on what their budget was. So, I mean, we took the total budget and they got a certain percentage of it based on the budget. So, and that's how that number came out. But that number goes up or down. One goes up, one goes down.
Yeah, I think we should, as far as the tax rate that we implement, it should reflect the numbers accurately. I don't think we should increase the rate at all, but however much of it's going to fire, that should be reflected
We
in
could
how
do
much
that.
is going to general. It's just a
Right.
matter of adjusting those.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just that's a calculation we could make, and,
yeah,
just to explain where your pennies go.
yeah.
Ron, which number are you showing in the budget currently? Is it the original 78 or is it the 91?
I'm showing the original 78.
Okay.
Oh, the requested,
The
yeah,
request.
showing the requested.
What I did is
78.
just bring back
Or-
every volunteer fire department back to the funding level that they're receiving this fiscal year.
Right, I just
I'm
want to
sorry,
clarify
he's showing the requested 91 and the recommended 78.
that. Right,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify that.
Change,
yeah.
right. Oh.
Okay, on this particular subject, I think, you know, it's 13,000, and it sounds like they will feel the pain, but it won't be that extreme. Maybe there's compromise if we went to a midpoint
I'd
Well-
writ-
and give them 7,000.
I'd written down 84,000,
Okay.
to split it and help out where we can, and be
Where's
another-
that, where's that coming from?
that's what, one of these 4 items down here on the bottom. One of these items on this page. Try to help out where we can, Gary.
So you're talking about bumping their recommended up 6,000.
That's correct, 84,000.
Yeah, well, see, that was page 90.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you got ahead of me on that recommendation, because I was gonna be real honest with Gary and stick with the 78, because he's telling me he could still survive with the 78.
I want
I
him just, I want him above this.
understand, but,
I wanna try to give him above the
I
survival rate.
I agree,
And they do a real good job of raising.
I agree.
their own out there, too.
yeah. Yeah,
Go ahead, speak for him, Gary.
so that'd be 84 even instead
Yes,
of
sir.
84.6?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it had 78.6, so it'd be 84.6.
Yes, sir.
Or 84 even.
84 even.
That good, Gary? I make a motion that we approve that.
Well, we won't do that until
We just
final
approved the
adoption.
budget as.
Well,
a whole.
okay,
So,
okay.
But once y'all give me.
I
the
thought you
consensus,
wanted
I'll-
a consensus.
I'll give a consensus,
Right.
I'll take it and make the change.
Okay.
What's the dollar amount difference there?
6,000.
54,
54?
yeah. Going from 78.6 to 84 even.
Right.
And we all expect extra pancakes at the paper.
People thinking pancakes, I like
Pancake
sausage.
tax.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's sausage too. Nothing comes without a price, Gary. I'm good, as far as, I don't have anything else for you, I don't know if anybody else does.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
I thought this one might have been all typos, 124, 400 versus first. Yeah, that's what I thought, but I haven't actually calculated them. Yeah, right. You know how that is. Okay. Okay, are we ready? Joe?
Well, I think,
Where
Ron,
are we
do you
starting, where are
feel,
we going?
do you feel the numbers are close enough to feel comfortable that you can make the necessary adjustments to?
Oh, I mean, sure, I mean, right now, depending on what you wanna do, you haven't talked to any of the departments yet, but, you know, depending on what happens there, you're at 97.8, and we've already identified, 60, 120, so 130,000 in additional revenue, depending on what you like and what you don't like about this list. So, you know, as long as you don't adjust too much, you're still 30,000 to the good roughly, 20 to 30.
That's not enough to cover the tennis courts.
Well, you take care of that, if you're doing
Okay.
a small area plan.
Well, I'm just concerned about the safety of that thing. I mean, having a cone out there, I mean, it's,
Concrete patch.
Yeah.
but,
Right.
yeah.
It's on my list to take a saw out there and cut out that one spot and pack
Okay, as long as there's as long as it's a temporary fix, that's okay with me, that's good.
Well, on that list of capital, the bottom number, radios, what is that number?
56?
Okay. Chief, that's yours, right? How does that affect you? We're talking about not giving him that,
Yes, sir.
in that scenario? Okay, how does that affect you, Chief?
I can live with that. It's basically pre-planning. It's a higher frequency radio. Ron's dealt with this as well. The county, at some point, thinks they'll go to this higher frequency. Spoke to the Roger Hallfield, who's over that program. He can't set a date. They've been talking like they've been going to it for the last 2 or 3 years.
Ah, okay.
This was just sort of a way to get one in, because when it hits at one time, it's gonna be a large expenditure.
So we don't absolutely need to yet.
Don't have to right this time.
Unless they set the date this next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know whether or not it's in their current budget?
No, it's not.
It's not in their current budget. The one they're working on for this coming year like we are. Oh, well, heck, I agree. Yeah.
If it comes out, just come back to us.
Yeah.
And like I said, the only reason I put in now is try to get a little ahead of, because when it hits, then it's gonna be a large expenditure.
Proactive versus reactive.
What's an idea, and I appreciate that, what's an idea of the total expense?
Outfit all the cars and handheld, $50,000-$60,000. And other counties have went to that, but Rutherford County has been researching it and looking into it. We don't have to go to Lake. Once they go, we will not be able to communicate if we don't have these type radios.
Okay.
Is that something, if it hit suddenly, that could be a financed item?
We would take a look at that and, sort of look at the payback of how long this
We
would last.
continue to try to look for grants. We tried the Facebook grant, which we got MVPs off of. One year we asked for this and they denied us on this. But we'll continue, but since I've been turned down before, I thought it'd be better to get
No,
everything.
we agree.
Try to at least get one every year.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh. You said it's 5,000 just for the radios? Where am I looking at?
Now, the 5,000 was for 2 units, is that right?
We asked for one a year, and I think it's around 3,000 per year.
Well, I mean, what do you got there?
5,600.
600.
Chief, do the new radios pick up the old frequency?
That's, yeah, we're gonna try to go with a dual
I'm
band.
trying to find
You
that.
can do,
Pick it up what we got currently, and
Right.
then once they
That's
switch,
all right.
we'll go to the other band.
It's in
Still pick up
Hmm?
the one new.
so it could make sense.
Oh,
to
it's
get
not
a few
in their
of them a
budget?
year
It is, yeah.
Rather
It's in
than
capital, which
making a
is at the very
change
end of
over
your
all
budget.
at once.
Exactly.
Oh. Oh, it's not in the police department, it's in the capital, that's very end. Okay. Okay, gotcha. So that doesn't affect their department budget?
That's correct. All it would do is affect the capital budget. As y'all probably know, what you do is the money comes in from your taxes, you take 3 cents and it goes into the capital reserve fund, which is
Okay.
where it shows up in your budget.
Okay, we're gonna get on that, since you brought it up, might as well deal with it now. And I'm the only one that's been mentioning this, I mentioned it at the December meeting, I've mentioned it once or twice since, and I'm mentioning it again today. And the bottom line is, you other 3 commissioners and mayor were on the council when that 3 cents was voted in, and I was not. So I'm gonna defer to you on whether you wanna leave it the way it's being treated now and handled now, or whether or not you want to try and change it back to the way it was intended as it was said then when it was voted in. So, I'm gonna defer to what y'all decide on that,
And let me
since
just,
y'all were originally the ones that voted that 3 cents in.
Andy pulled the language, where was that,
I
Andy?
think it's on the second page.
Second page.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to look at it, so. I figured you would.
That just shows like when they directed it to be put into the budget for that year, like in 2013.
But the motion language
Mhm.
is on page 2?
the town staff to adjust the budget to reflect the tax rate increase of 3 cents to fund capital improvement projects.
I really don't. Oh,
Page 3, about 2 paragraphs from the
Now,
bottom.
again, y'all,
see, okay.
you can
Now-
change this any way you like.
Now, it says here that in the minutes, that it was the tax rate increase 3 cents to fund capital improvement projects. The discussion at the firehouse that day was, it was 3 cents to fund infrastructure improvement, which was specifically defined and discussed as sewer, road, utilities. And that was what was the intent, from what I recall from that meeting. And if Mary Ann recalls, and Bob, I mentioned this yesterday, during that same meeting, I said, well, you probably need 5 cents. And Mary Ann said, well, Stephen's right, but y'all ended up going with the 3. But the discussion was infrastructure improvement, not just any kind of capital project. But apparently, whenever the money started, and John mentioned that 3-cent increase was not intended to replace what was already being spent in the budget every year for capital improvement.
That's right.
But it did. That money started hitting, and it went to capital reserve, and the other money that was already being spent went away, and the only thing that showed up was that 3 cents and what came out of taxes for it. Again, I'm the only one that's been talking about this, so I'm gonna defer to y'all and whatever your decision is, since you're the ones that originally approved it. So,
You have not the only one that's been talking about it, because I asked for a line item on it, not a line item, but a flow chart.
That's correct.
Over several years to show what we were spending before the 3-cent increase and what we were spending after, so we can make this fair comparison that you're talking about. Do we have that, Sam?
Yeah, I think I think I did one last year for you, didn't I? Of what we spent.
Well, I asked for one for this year that shows what we're, a capital
If you look at this paper here in the back, you'll see it goes back to 2009.
Okay.
And then you see what we spent on in 2009.
Well, what I was hoping we would have, what we were spending, the way this was presented to us was that this was gonna be an additional, it was all for capital improvements. We did Chris did a flyer on it and sent it out to everybody explaining exactly what it was going to cover. And what we haven't seen is an accounting of how much of that got done. It's easy to add up what that 3 cents did over the years since 2014, the years we've collected it, that number, whatever that is, and what that money's been spent on. And at the same time, what our normal capital improvements were during that period of time. I think we promised the folks, we sent out, especially, you went to the effort to send out a communication explaining why we were adding this, and most people I talked to seem to be in favor of it. So, yeah, that's a good idea, if that's how you're gonna use it. And I think it would be good to be able to go back to them now, 3 years later and say, okay, here's what we promised, and here's what we've done.
I need to add that the current budget we have, Ron has programmed that money based on the way it has been handled and the way it's currently being handled. And if there's an insistence on it being handled for infrastructure improvement only, then that's going to affect this proposed budget and all of the capital projects in it. That's allocated, that money has been allocated for those capital projects that's on whatever page in there.
Yeah, well, this just didn't come up
So
today.
I want y'all to know that.
Yeah, we've talked about it since back last year.
Yeah, let me sort of catch folks up.
Yeah.
You've really got three funds. You've got your general fund, you've got your water and sewer, and then you've got your electric. What I really tried to do this year, and I think this is what Sam did last year, that money, of course, comes in, and then it's allocated back out to your capital projects. The general fund takes that 251,000 roughly. So that money plugs right back into 251,000. What I really tried to do was keep your water and sewer capital and debt all within this fund, which would be roads also. So when you talk about infrastructure, roads, water, and sewer, some of that road stuff is repaving what you do with water and sewer. And then your electric fund, all in electric. So that none of your general fund revenue is going into these other funds to supplement those.
I understand that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go back and pull that, flyer that was sent out?
We can do that.
Look at what was promised,
Right.
and then do a follow-up flyer.
See if it's been accomplished.
Yeah,
Right.
let's say, this is what, 3 years ago, your taxes were increased this much to cover these sort of things. This is what was done with that extra money, and at that same time, this is what was done with what had been set aside normally.
Right.
And it's actually been 4 years. That was
4
June of
years.
13
Right.
Yeah.
when that was voted
Okay.
on.
It just gives them an update for the
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
It's just, update that publication.
Yeah, we can do that. Just know though that when you do your capital improvement plan, that's really what you're planning is that 3 cents. Now, if you have a balance in your capital reserve fund, then we can use some of that money. I think there was 77,000, does that sound right? There's still some money in there that needs to be plugged back in at some point. It's just like a good example is this sidewalk project to the ABC store. It hasn't been constructed. So what'll happen is that $30,000 will be taken out of that capital reserve fund and plugged back into your general fund once that project's ready to go for next year.
Right, I understand. But
Okay.
The key is, at the time, we said this 3 cents is for extra above and, in addition to what we have done before.
Okay.
So,
Just want to show what's
yeah,
been
just wanna-
accomplished.
yeah, let's see what it went to.
Okay, Sam can put that together for us, I think.
Did you do that, Sam?
I'm gonna try.
I'm emailing it to you now. It's
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Okay.
So what are we asking for specifically? A summary of
Yeah.
how much came in each
Yeah.
year and where it went?
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah, and we can lay that beside what we were spending before, we can see.
And I see how it's being counted, how it
Yeah.
goes through.
Part
the
of it
outside.
last year went
Basically,
to tech.
basically an accounting of what those, that extra 3 cents
Yeah.
went for. And, at the same time, what was done without before was done, but it had been done anyway, regardless.
It's just tracking it after it
Yeah.
goes in the general fund.
Sure.
Well, I remember it being committed.
Yes.
And I'm not sure what happens at the end of the year. Does anything left in those designated funds go back into the general fund and get lost? Or is it kept separate?
It's my understanding, Sam, that it's kept separate. Once it goes into the capital reserve fund, it stays in the capital reserve fund.
And that's where it's been put ever since, Sam, in your recollection? It's always been put in the capital reserve fund instead of a separate infrastructure fund, like was talked about. Okay,
Okay.
so, all right. Where do we go from here, boss?
Ron,
Next.
well, Ron brought all these folks in here, with the purpose being, Ron, how would you like to proceed from here? Because
Well, I was gonna leave that.
right now, the budget, the way it stands, without input, is, you've got a handle on where we're going. Is there something else that you'd like to surface, or?
Well, I've got some questions, while Shannon's here. You don't have a copy of this whole book in front of you, but on page, part of what we have to approve are the fee schedules. And so I'm looking at the fee schedule for land use, We talked in one meeting about increasing the zoning variance fee from $255 to $300 and decreasing the zoning appeal fee from $310 to $300 to bring those in line with what we just did in January or December with the lake fees. A lake structure variance is $300 now, and a lake structure appeal is $300 now. So I just did that to bring those in line. A little bit further down, under civil penalties for zoning violations, it has a notice of violation 0, first citation 40, second citation 80, third citation 160, and fourth citation 320. I reviewed chapter 13 of the zoning regulations and the paragraphs there dealing with violations. So my big question is, and there's nothing in that chapter that sets apart these citations. My question is are these citation amounts first, second, third, and fourth, regardless of the severity of the violation?
It is, you're having to exercise some discretion, and the doubling is meant to get attention.
So if a person first time around has a really, really severe violation, we're only fining them $40 as opposed to a person that has a minor violation. And that to me does not make sense. Somehow or another, the severity of what's being the offense needs to be calculated into the amount of the fine, in my opinion.
Right.
And that just doesn't make sense to me when I caught that.
Sure. I think we can adjust it. The bottom line is that we're trying to cite for non-compliance and get compliance.
Right.
And whether it's a soft approach, a hard approach, approach that's more in keeping with what you just described, we can design whatever the board would like to get designed so that we get the kind of compliance in the way that you'd like for compliance to be gotten.
Okay.
It may take a little time to study, apart from where we are now, but we certainly can go back.
Well, I imagine that's something the zoning and planning board would probably need to discuss because it would require an ordinance change to include it. In the lake structure regulations, or I'm sorry, in the lake fee schedule, we have the classes of civil penalties and the first, second, and offense type fines. And we just revamped the fire department ordinance and to where they're going to be on the fee schedule with the classes of A, B, and C and D and the amount of penalty. And I'd like to see the ordinance state that kind of stuff and bring the fee schedule in line with the ordinance. I don't recommend that the money amounts be in the ordinance because every time that changes, then you'd have to change the ordinance.
Exactly.
So, but the money amounts should be clearly stated on the fee schedule. Because we do say that in the ordinance that the civil penalties are as stated. But I really think the severity, or maybe ought to establish a class of violation for each zoning violation or types of a zoning violation. Again, I agree, zoning and planning needs to study, so I'm gonna make a motion that the zoning and planning board be tasked with studying that and coming up with a recommended resolution to us and a change in ordinance before we approve this particular fee schedule for land use.
So this would be enough to hold up the budget?
Not
I'm
the
sorry,
budget.
I'll take the second and then
Okay.
discussion.
Okay.
Right.
And now I ask a
Not
question.
hold up the budget,
Okay,
hold up approving the new fee schedule.
okay, that's fine.
I have a
Fee
question, do
schedule
we,
should be adopted with your budget.
I agree.
So yes, what you could do is just adopt it as is and then change it after they've had time to do their work.
Okay.
That's what I was concerned with, Steve. I
Okay,
think your points are
then
valid.
take out holding up the fees.
Because your
Make
fee
the
schedule
changes
can
to the fee schedule, the 300 and the 300, make those two changes, and then study civil penalties in the ordinance.
I'm good with that.
Okay, second by Steve. Any further discussion? Have some? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
And that's all I had for Shannon. I don't know if you had anything regarding what you requested and was recommended.
Right. The request that I made was, town manager reduced that by 25, page, Ron, I wasn't quite sure, second to last page of this document, you got it back in, so I'm not sure which one we're talking about.
Now, the last page, is always the departmental request. It's based off the departmental request.
Okay.
The page that has my manager recommendations is where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, you know, what may be easier is just to go department by department and see if anybody has any questions. But we could go ahead and knock Shannon out if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll knock him out.
Well, so you requested 279.7, and he recommended 258.7.
That's right.
How does that affect you operationally, or are you okay with that?
Well, day-to-day, it's not. I think what it may affect is basically the key action items that were identified at the retreat we had at the Trons Western site. The three big projects that came out of that, which was a discussion with myself, Ron, and the board at the time, we identified three new projects that we wanted to complete. Those also show up in the comprehensive plan calendar that was recently adopted as part of the comp plan update. And those three items, basically what we were saying is, we want to see if we can get those done for the $25,000. Personally, I think that's probably gonna be low, but we'll just take them one at a time and we'll go as far as we can. I mean,
Well, I would conduct Performing Arts Center site study and put that to the side in lieu of the Morse Park plan, which seems to have more importance right now. I wouldn't spend money on that particular study that you've got there. I would substitute the Morse Park plan, which we've already done money-wise.
Well, I think on that one, I'll defer to the town manager because he's been involved in those discussions with a particular group of people
Right.
more than I have. And I think that was one of the items that I think was near and dear to the town manager, so Mr. Malley.
Because that's one we absolutely have to have before Morse Park restrooms.
Well, again, Morris Park restrooms, that's gonna go in your Parks and Recreation budget, so it's not gonna hit his budget at all.
Okay.
What you're looking
Not the
at,
study, not the plan?
that's correct. What
Okay.
he is involved in that study, but it's certainly gonna be paid for out of Parks and Rec.
Okay.
The three projects, you know, the streetscape guidelines, the Performing Arts Center site study, and develop peak
Yeah,
season
we're
parking
on
plan.
page 114, item 5, under key action items.
You know, really what he said is true. We took a $50,000 budget item and knocked that down to about 25,000. Some of these, like, I'll give a good example, streetscape guidelines. There are so many examples out there, of streetscape guidelines, that some of that can be adjusted to fit our needs. It's not all new work, and so that was the idea behind some of this. The peak season parking plan, I understand, has already been worked on at some point with police and fire, so that wasn't a complete new plan. So I think the board's intention of getting these three studies done can roughly be done with staff's input and work on the project without contracting that work out.
Oh, how about the ABC walkway? Is that impacted in any way by this year's budget? Or is that based on the money already
But
allocated?
you've already allocated 30,000 to that in your capital reserve fund. And so once that project comes up and is ready to be bid out, then that 30 will be transferred back into his department or to Public Works or wherever we end up putting it.
Well, the ABC walkway, not the CRC, I'm talking the ABC.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, okay. That is gonna be in place before the actual move, isn't it?
We hope so, yes, sir. We plan to have it at least up to Harris Road, or roughly right in there.
The hard service would go from where the sidewalk ends here at Jack London, would go to the parking lot of Hickory Nut Gorge Outreach, and then it would be striped across the parking lot and across Harris to take us to the corner. What we would not have is a nice, clean, clear path from the corner of Harris Road and 64 to 74A into the strip center. us. In other words, we're bringing them up the sidewalk, but we don't have a clearly designated walkway to get them from that corner up into the street.
Would there not be a possibility of just going across Heron and up some steps right there on that little bank into the parking lot?
There was not enough money in that $30,000 to get us into the actual site. That gets us up to the site, and what we're gonna try to do is squeeze some additional money out of the work at the ABC board.
Well, I strongly feel that walkway needs to be in place before the move is completed, because we have promised that to citizens all along, that would happen as part of that. So I strongly feel that has to be completed no later than the date of the opening of the new store.
I would say the least expensive way to do that would be to, take pedestrians up Harris Road from the corner, into that driveway that's there on the right as you go up Harris.
Yeah.
So, we've got some issues to negotiate as far as storm water goes, because in the right side of Harris Road as you ascend, that is a stormwater ditch. So we're gonna have to come up with a stormwater system to make sure we're capturing stormwater and placing it where it needs to be.
David's making a new list as you're speaking.
We've been on it. They've been right in the middle of it.
Just ask 3A.
Mental notes. He was just out there yesterday, and yesterday afternoon I was photographing some places in Henderson County, because we had a driveway we have to negotiate as you come up on the shoulder of 6474A.
So do we need to make any adjustments to your department stuff here?
Well, I'd love to see the 25-foot back in there, but
Okay.
I'm gonna defer to the town manager. I think he has some strategies in mind. He feels like we can employ.
Okay. Do we need to make any changes?
He used.
I have presented the manager's recommended budget, so I will stick
So
to.
you're not recommending any changes?
Unless it's
to
on
this?
that sheet,
Oh, okay,
I have given you my recommendation.
Okay.
So we'll go with two of them, say leave it as is.
okay. You're deferring to his recommendation, he's got it,
We'll do
okay,
everything we
got
can
it,
with the money you give us.
all right. Well, I'm good, man.
Thank you, Shane.
Which department you wanna go to next, Ron?
I don't need you anymore.
Well,
He might.
to make it easier on everybody, why don't we start at that first page with commission, 63, page 63,
Does that mean we can leave after we're done?
if you'd like. We'll settle the rest of this for you.
That's right.
Oh, man.
All right. Now, actually, what I'm gonna ask is if there's any questions, and we'll go through some of these real quick, because there's some of these departments that don't have any money in it at all. So, commission, were there any questions about commission? The commission budget?
We have no money anyways.
Well, yeah, I see $1,100 in here for benefits for the commission, and I don't know of any of us that get any benefits. So I wanna know about that.
That's your FICA.
Oh, okay, that's just the FICA. That benefit we get to pay the tax.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
No questions about commission? Any, for administration?
Well, just on the salary stuff, which would, your raise that we talked,
Yes, sir.
bringing you up to where you should be. And, well, you're gonna have several adjustments there anyway, right? Because of the pace, phase 1 and 2 is already there. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But you don't have the longevity in here, you got it there. Got it, okay.
Okay.
Well, let me, part of this was, we had planned to bring a contract employee into a part-time, and now we're talking about going back.
So that's in economic development. We'll get there.
No, that was under, oh, it is, oh, okay, I thought that was under admin, I'm sorry, gotcha,
Okay.
go.
All right. So central services? Any questions about central services?
That's all our tech stuff, right?
That's correct.
Utilities, no.
Okay.
I don't have any, I don't.
Just if you can keep it down. That's a big number for.
Yeah, yeah.
For just computer stuff.
Right.
Drives me nuts.
It's telephone, internet, and IT, so, yeah,
Still, that's a big number.
it is.
It's almost 10,000 a month, 9,000 a month.
Popo.
Okay.
All right, police. Police was one of those that actually had a very small operational budget. So you're basically looking at mostly salaries, overtime, part-time.
And wasn't there a decrease overall in there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm fine with that decrease.
Hey,
I-
any comments, Chief?
How about you, any questions for us? I mean,
Yeah.
anything that you felt you needed or should have gotten that you didn't?
Really?
Cool.
Can we get that in writing, triplicate of that?
Yeah. You got that in a minute, Sandy?
Yeah, be sure that's recorded.
Sean is happy. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we
All right.
appreciate it.
You can go if you want, man. We're done.
That was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you,
Fire.
sir.
Okay.
Well, I had a whole bunch of questions, but they were answered. The 168, that was one that I was questioning, but that's a charge back to the other fire departments.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Professional services in your fire department includes the cost of your volunteer fire departments. Yeah, that's your contracts.
Right.
So that was,
So we're allocating the same 45 to Chimney Rock and Bills Creek we have in previous years. We already talked about Fairfield and did that. That's gonna make some adjustment. Ron, were there any other adjustments in yours, as opposed to what you requested and what was recommended?
Yeah, we could, and I asked the manager what we needed to do, so we went back and really kind of fine-tuned our operating budget, made some cuts and some adjustments there to get as tight as we could get by with, and also to try to ease the budget for the other requests that we had. So, but as far as the operating budget there, I think we can work within that.
Okay.
You know.
One thing I noticed that, you requested one full-time position, new, and I support that. And I'll tell you that right now. But last year, we also granted a new part-time position to you. That you're showing, you have a part-time employee, and now you're asking also for a full-time.
Actually, I'm not following you on that. We have several part-time employees, and Sean's left, just as the police department does. They call theirs reserves, we call them part-time employees. And we have about 4 or 5 of these, depending on where we're at. And these part-time employees aren't guaranteed any specific hours, or don't have a regular schedule. These employees work as we need them to fill in for full-time employees that are out sick or on vacation or gone to training or whatever that need may be. Or a good example is we had our ISO inspection this week. So 2 of the part-time guys come in and helped yesterday while we were out doing all these exercises for the ISO. So it's same as the police department. I don't even know how many reserve officers they have, but we have several part-time firefighters who don't have any benefits. They're on an on-call basis. We call them when we need them. They come in and fill in with somebody. The other thing that's a huge benefit to this program is we have 6 full-time employees now. 4 of our 6 full-time employees came out of this part-time program. So we hire these part-time guys. We work them as we need them. We train them in as what they need to know for Lake Lure in addition to being a firefighter. And then if we have someone leave or we have another position open, a lot of times we fill that position from this part-time staff, and it cuts way down on the training time for these people. Now, as far as that salary line item, it's labeled, let's see if I can find it in here. It says salaries part-time, and there's a little misconception there, because it shows 30,000 for part-time salaries. And that's not all part-time salary money. That line item, and it actually includes 2 main items. First thing is the pay per call for the volunteer firefighters. All of our fire departments do it's called a reimbursement.
Right.
But it's a pay per call, and so about 15,000 of that is allocated for the volunteers. So there's only 15,000 that's actually part-time.
Maybe we need to redefine the line item on the budget so it's more accurate to what we see.
And depending on which copy you get, there's some that says part-time / volunteer pay per call, so it just depends how it gets written down sometimes, but I agree that it is a little confusing there, because it makes you think we have $30,000 for part-time,
Yeah, because this one sheet here is staffing summary, says in 2017, we had a clerk at 40, we had an accountant that left, and then we added one police reserve and one part-time firefighter.
Yeah, and we do, and just as Sean does with his reserve officers, kind of as if we have a part-timer that quits, or if we have a good opportunity to pick up a part-timer, there's not necessarily a set number. Normally, there's somewhere around 5 of those part-timers. And so we just kind of fill those positions as we need, and then they only are paid when they work.
So, all right, then my question is, I guess for Sam and Ron Nelly, is if that item says salaries part-time, has FICA and other benefits been calculated in and increased based on a $30,000 salary for a part-time?
Well, FICA's gonna be calculated at 7.65% for any time, so,
Okay.
so yes.
And even
And, but if 15,000 of that is just reimbursing volunteers, that's not salary.
they
And that
actually are-
shouldn't be, is that taxed?
They actually are treated as part-time
Part-time
employees per the league's requirements. So they
Okay.
actually have taxes taken out of
Yeah,
it.
it's the same, yeah, it's the same.
That's not-
7.65.
Yeah.
Volunteers do appreciate it.
As such, you're reimbursing me my gas mileage, but taking out, or my time and whatever, and you're taking out taxes.
According to what we're told, because they don't submit actual receipts for reimbursement, the
Right.
only way we can treat them as part-time
Gotcha.
employees.
Okay.
Well,
You're looking
we've
at
gone up from
14% increase in wages.
over
Salaries.
since 2009, over the past 10 years, it's just salary and benefits in this department have increased 68%.
In two,
This year is going up 14% alone.
okay, so in 2008, when we moved from
Volunteer.
volunteer to the municipal department, we hired 3 new employees, and that was in 2008.
Well, this is starting in 2009.
Yes, sir, I'm,
And, yeah, and
So-
if you take 2009 out, from 2009 to 2010, went from 283 to 351. And then, proposed for 218 is 477, so that's over another 100,000, 126,000. So it's, there's gotta be a cap here somewhere, we can't.
Well, we also have we also have a huge increase in group insurance this year.
Yeah,
To almost over $12,000. And that's 30% on that line item alone. So,
yeah, with the
I mean,
12, if you took the whole 12,000 out, you still got a big number here.
Plus you used 477, the actual estimate is 463, because that calculated 2.5% cost of living and some of the other things, so. So the 463 is the number that we're using now.
463.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
What I was-
I'm just saying that's, you see the trajectory here.
and what I might say is, we've had these same number of full-time employees since 2008.
Right.
So any increases that's happened since then has been either due to adjustments made in salaries or benefits, but we've not increased any full-time staff since 2008. So those numbers, whatever they may be, are something that's not a result of us increasing in size.
Well, look at the other departments here, and let's just see what police is, see what theirs.
While you looking at that, Ron, are we paying Bills Creek 45 or 50?
I moved them back to the 45.
Good.
Over the
It's
same
just says
period.
50 on this.
Right, again, that last page is based on the recommendation from the department head.
Yeah, I just want to
Yeah,
clarify it's
that's right.
45.
Right.
Yes,
I know
sir.
this is rough figuring, but over the same period of time, that, it shows, fire increasing 68%, it shows police increasing 15%.
Now, I'm not sure what I have in front of me goes back that far.
Yeah.
Well, your objective's to get to 6 full-time firefighters, regardless what, and yourself.
Correct. It'd be-
So there's 2 per shift on, okay, so that, and you haven't been there, you've been at the 5 level for the longest time, and you've been filling in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that, when you mentioned the cap, that's pretty much, unless things dramatically change, that would be the objective.
That's objective, and that's what we've been shooting for since 2008. It was to put that staffing level on. We've been, and we put a request in about 2009 there's no plan, we don't have any plan to increase anymore. Like I said, we've been at that same staffing level since 2009.
Well, once again, I support the full-time. What I was reading was that you got a new part-time person this year, since June of last year to this year, you got a new part-time person, and you wanted a new full-time this year, or in this budget. And and if that's not the case, okay, I support the full-time, but I wasn't going to agree to the new full-time and keep the part-time.
And I think
So-
probably, I'm guessing, but I think probably what happens is every time, even though we add a part-timer, but he doesn't have any scheduled hours. So I think probably what happened from Anita's records, it showed on the records that we did employ a new part-time person.
I think that's the confusion.
But there was actually no extra money set aside for that person, and there was no hours set aside for that person. He is just a person that helps us fill in when we need him, but we're still dealing with the same pot of money. So if I have 10 or 15 of those employees, that amount of money is the same.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
What we need to do is revise the staffing
Okay,
sheet,
okay, gotcha.
not to reflect the transfer of folks.
Or call them reserves
That's
and
right.
not part-time.
Yeah, we will fix that.
But technically, they are part-time from what you're telling me.
Yeah, they are. But what he's saying is he did not add a new part-time position. What happened is we replaced one of the folks that was in that part-time position.
We've actually reduced the number of part-time employees that we had in the last year.
Yeah.
So we still gotta struggle with the money aspect of everything, but as far as actually approving the position, I agree. And if Ron hadn't stated, I'll state it as further justification for that position with the increased Buffalo Creek Park area and the Ditmawat trails being finalized and the proposed Lurmont trails and the Weed Patch Mountain trails, his requirements have increased on calls and stuff that have been occurring in Buffalo Creek and are anticipated in Weed Patch. So there's a demand there. And that, to me, help justifies this added position.
Well, that's one thing I do want our commission to look at is look at what this cost of one employee is gonna cost this community, which I support also. I want us as a group to go to Chimney Rock and say, we are furnishing you all these services, now policemen, 24/7. And this number of these ads right here, we should be charging Chimney Rock for one average police officer.
And we're paying them for fire protection and giving them free police
Right.
and rescue and all that.
But I mean, look at this one, basically this 14% increase, this 30% is just in, group insurance. Well, about 10,000, that's strictly just one employee. This one employee will cost us $10,000 in group insurance.
Just one thing, we've initiated conversations with Peter and with one of the commissioners to
Right.
do just that.
Okay.
But it's been a soft approach as opposed to going in there and saying, okay, here comes the item. It's to sit down with them and look at all of these expenses and say, something's gotta change.
Well, and this is
it
exhibit-
probably won't be till next year, but Ron had a discussion with one of the commissioners yesterday. I had well, maybe before, I've had several conversations with Peter over the last 2 weeks, and so it's begun, just so you know, it's
Because
begun.
I
And-
just want you to see, this is a very good example of what one employee costs us
Yeah.
is a tremendous amount.
Well, and in addition, and a lot of residents say, why do I see Lake Lure Police up in Chimney Rock? But the other issue is the state's obligation. Has there been an attempt yet to have the legislature or folks in Raleigh aware that having created this state park is costing both Chimney Rock and Lake Lure to go on rescue and with no compensation, nothing provided other than whatever the Park Service does. I think there's something there that needs to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll said on that, but otherwise, this is just a good example, show what one person costs us and
Right.
time to,
Anything else for
I think
fire?
that's it.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Public Works,
General consensus then that we grant the
Yes.
additional full-time?
As long as
Yeah.
we can keep it within the budget without raising taxes.
Well, it's already,
It's already-
Oh, it's in there, it fits in there now, but,
Right.
you know, that's, I just, you know, wanna keep in mind that,
Oh, without raising property tax?
yeah, without
Gotcha,
raising,
gotcha,
without raising
Yeah,
property.
gotcha.
okay. Public Works,
Anything Public Works.
David? I see.
the one thing I will point out, let's just make sure everybody understands, the request is roughly about the same, except for the addition of a roll-up door, the dump bed, and snowplow. I think those were the only three extra items in his budget that was proposed for funding, which totals about 15,000, 16,000, something like that, yeah. Other than personnel increase.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well,
Tell us what you think.
well, he requested 180 on salaries and wages, and you dropped that, or recommended 165. That's a 15. Overall, for that personnel services, it dropped 19,000.
I think there was a part-time position that was recommended in there, and that was, there were, I think I received five, or no, not in Public Works, that was Parks and Rec, I'm sorry. I received probably 5 or 6 recommendations for departments for extra positions. And again, the only one I suggested in my recommended budget was the fire department and the part-time PIO. So those were the only ones that made it into my recommendation.
Well, I didn't see any part-time in here on.
No, you're right,
there,
I was
so
thinking Parks and Rec, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I saw full, I mean, he asked for 180 on full-time, and dropped that.
And that
About
included the
15, but overall for the department, and that would have been with the recalculation of all the benefits.
Yes.
Overall, that dropped 19,000 in the department. So what effect does that have on you?
I don't know where those numbers came from, the salary and all of that is
They're Ron's
done
numbers.
through
Ron and,
Well, I'm talking about the department request. The request, according to this, from your department.
Sam and Anita developed personnel numbers for the budget, for the first set of numbers.
Okay,
Those are given to department heads.
oh, okay.
And then based on the conversations I have with you, they're adjusted either up or down. And so my final numbers are based on the 1.5%, the
Versus the 2.5 original.
2.5 original.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Uh,
Got it.
You
That makes
comfortable with
sense,
everything there? You comfortable with these numbers?
So they do the numbers and give it to David and said, here, David, this is what you're asking for, right?
Right, because David has no clue what personnel costs are like.
Okay. I got it.
I'm just kidding.
So anything else in your budget that you asked for that you're not getting, that,
No, sir, the three things that I asked for, if they're left there, they're things that I feel are really needed. The roll-up door, which sounds crazy, but on the back of our shop, there's not an entrance door. And we're constantly in and out the back of the shop all day, every day. And those back doors are not locked. So anybody can walk in there. You know, you see where I'm going. But-
Too late, they already know.
yeah, well,
We need to get a lock on that.
If it's installed, it's gonna secure our place. There will be an entrance door that is designed into the roll-up door. So every time we leave, we can control that door being just raised up, left up. Every time you raise it in wintertime, all your heat goes out.
so the roll-up door is for physical security purposes?
Yes, and for cost savings, because every time that door goes up in the winter, that gas heater on the wall comes on, because all your heat just went out. Well, then it's gonna sit there
itself in a short period of time.
Well, you need that security.
So I,
Any way we can work that back in, Ron?
It's in,
it's in.
that's
there.
what I was saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
He's got it.
The roll-up door, the dump bed, and snowplow are all included in his
Oh,
budget.
I
Yeah.
thought you might,
No,
I thought you meant you took those out, my bad.
no.
Okay,
There's bucket trucks in the CIP.
so you already got that?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's why
Bob.
he has a smile on his face.
That's right.
Yeah, so is there anything you did not get
No, sir.
that you think you need, or, okay, so you're happy?
I am.
Got that in a minute, Sandy.
Now, he needs a bucket truck, but we put that in the CIP.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
I'm good to go.
Okay,
Sanitation. Just give you a quick rundown. Tipping fees went up based on the proposal by Rutherford County to increase their tipping fees. And we also had a budgeted increase in the sanitation contract. And so that's the differences between your estimates for current budget year and your department request and then recommended.
Is there any increase in recycling for citizens?
No, I think that was just a reimbursement. Is that right, Sam?
pass-through.
It's a pass-through, so,
Okay.
yep. So again, the tipping fees went up and your contract services. Economic development. This was the department that proposes the new part-time employee to replace contract services. It proposes $10,000 to fund New Economic Development Association. It continues funding for the Chamber of Commerce. It also includes our community branding initiative. So you'll see on my chart there, the only thing that I had recommended to change, outside of what my manager recommended, was finding that $10,000 roughly if you wanted to take that back to contract, the part-time employee back to contract.
What are the benefits to the citizens of town Lake Lure for the contributing to the New Economic Development Association?
Mayor, would you like to cover that?
I can send you out, an email on it. It's a countywide thing. Part of it has to do with, the benefit being one where we participate in how the economic development monies are spent. I don't have a lot of quick bullets, but the difference, their recommendation to us was for $8,000. At $10,000, it gives us a seat on the board. And it's a participatory thing that we have a say in how monies across the county are allocated for economic development.
And I'll just add one more quick one, is that it is included in your comprehensive plan to look at a structure that includes an economic development association. This might be the answer to that instead of a complete new economic development association for the town itself.
Okay,
I think it's a good question, John, and I'll send out some stuff that, this is one that could be pulled if the commission didn't feel it was adequate. I should have sent it out beforehand. Interestingly enough, Forest City was going to put in $30,000. They just, at last night's council meeting, came down to $10,000, equal to what we have, because they wanted to have a seat on the board. But I'll send it out to you and we can take a look at it. It's in there, and just maybe think about it as being a soft number that we could pull back from.
Do we know what other municipalities besides Forest City are doing?
They're all coming in at the $10,000 level, although they haven't committed yet. The campaign will start in July, but in just talking with the other mayors, that they've all committed to the $10,000 level.
The
Now,
mayors
Chimney
are
Rock hasn't.
committed,
Chimney
or-
Rock, they've only asked for, like $1,000, but the big, Spindale, Forest City, and Rutherfordton, and I think Ellenboro are the other participants in addition to us.
As we look at things that have a direct effect on the citizens of Lake Louisville, I'm thinking about, for instance, the police radios that the chief was asking for. Comparing this to that, I'm just wondering what the, cost benefit is on each side. We can easily see what, you know what the cost is, but what's, I think it would be good to be able to articulate what it is that the citizens get from this $10,000.
I agree, and what I'll do is I'll send out the articles about it to you, and if we don't agree on it, we can pull it from
But do you remember what any of the points were off the top of your head that how it would be good for the town of Lake Louisville?
Well, again, they're gonna be creating a budget, I mean, a fund of about $1.5 million. And that fund will be used for economic development purposes, some of which is tourism. And tourism is a key component of that. So that's where the benefit, you know, that money can be allocated by the board to fund certain projects
Throughout the county.
throughout the town, throughout the county, but also we can, we can focus on.
So part of the Economic Development Association money might be allocated for tourism development, but the Tourism Development Association is still there and existing and
That'll be
still
over and
spending
above.
all their money
That's
elsewhere.
separate, that's correct.
That's a separate thing, and, you know, Don Kaysen is still going after his
Right.
dollars. A lot of the times it's from the same people. But, all the counties around us have gone to a public-private partnership, except Rutherford County. And this was recommended back in 2002 or some time like that. They reinitiated the study, they decided to do it, and it's in the works right now.
I'm not saying there's not a benefit, I'm just
Yeah.
saying I don't know what it is, and it's something that if we're gonna spend the money, we ought to be able to, articulate what it is that we're.
I agree.
Yeah, we need to know that, yeah.
And
Yeah.
perhaps we can devise a way to track what the benefits are in the future.
Yeah.
In the past, there's been a lot of feeling that money went from us to the county and we didn't see the benefits. Maybe there were benefits that we didn't know about.
Well, we still don't get some of them.
Well, and there are some issues about, costs for the Flowering Bridge, and I think we've all seen all across the state, from our state magazine and all, that project here in our town has had a big impact on tourism. And being represented on that board for Rutherford County gives us direct input and feedback that can help us perhaps track the benefits, reap more benefits, and maybe this time next year be able to enumerate
Well,
more clearly.
I can
This is
see,
just a one-year commitment, right?
5 years. They're asking for a $50,000 commitment for 5 years,
Okay, well, that's not what we have in here,
Ten,
right?
10,000 for 5 years.
10,000.
10,000 a year for 5, so we're looking at a $50,000 expense.
That's
rather
what they've
than a-
requested.
Than a $10,000 expense.
It'll be 10,000 for the next 5 years. And Mayor, if I remember right, we were gonna have someone that was coming to town to make a presentation, is that?
We had it scheduled for the meeting that I had to miss.
Okay, so we'll reschedule that? Is that-
And again, look, if I can say, look at this as being soft dollars that could be moved out. I'd rather not have you strike it right now until I had a chance to bring this fellow in and to give you a presentation. I have a whole bunch of stuff in my office, but I don't.
How do we make it a soft dollar rather than how do we do that?
If we were desperate looking for money, it's 10,000, so it's small compared to some of these other larger things, but
When are they looking to get the money?
it would be after July 1st. I don't know if
By the
that's payments or if that's a
By
one-time
the November timeframe.
November, so, yeah.
Okay, so we could set aside the money for it, but decide
That's
by
correct.
November if we wanted to spend it there. We just, and put it, and call it something else, just call it,
Well, it would stay in your budget. What we would do is then you would
Yeah.
just say, say
But
we're gonna,
Yeah, we've got
do a
it
budget
there,
amendment.
but we're
That's right.
yet to decide whether or not we're gonna spend it.
exactly, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And I'll get that information to you. You know, there were a whole bunch of numbers that I have, and I just don't have them in the top of my head. It's in my office, and I'd rather not spend the time on it right now, but I'll get it out to you in the next
Well,
couple of
just a
days.
couple of bullet points, just so, well, we'll get this and that, just to, a couple of things to back it up.
Oh, okay. I've got another question or two in that same department. And on here, we're talking about where we had proposed a part-time, and that's a contract employee, proposed that part-time position, taking that person out of contract and making them employee, and now we're talking about going back. But creating that part-time position is something we need to do. And if you could explain briefly the state stuff, what the league or whoever it was, and regarding that type of thing, and why we need to do that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
we've had, I want to say, 2 studies, both David Hill and the gentleman from the North Carolina League of Municipalities, which I can't recall his name right now. I'm sorry?
Hartwell Wright.
Hartwell Wright. When they reviewed our positions and our classifications, both recommended that Valerie's position, contract, as well as John's down at the hydroelectric dam, were not indeed contracts and could not be considered contract employees and should be moved to either part-time or full-time positions. And so what we are slowly trying to do is to adjust those positions to come within our personnel system. And the first attempt was to bring Valerie in this year and to do something with John hopefully over the next year or so.
Okay. What are the ramifications if we do not do that? Not money.
Maybe a more
Policy.
pointed question would be, Anita, you could probably answer this. I know this is stuff that's controlled by the labor board, and they have a list, you go down and check off. This is a contract employee, if they're doing this, then it's a, non-exempt. Where do we fall in those, when you look at it, comparing to those lists, where do they fall?
Yeah, Sam maintains the contract labor list because he does the 1099s.
Right, and I'm talking about there's certain things that if it's.
But when they
Yeah,
go down the worksheet,
When you
that-
go
and
down
that's,
the worksheet,
that's
you
how that
determine
determination was
whether or not
made.
it's a-
What qualifies them
Yeah.
as one or
Yeah.
the other?
And that's how that determination was made, is that they
Right.
don't meet enough of the checklist to qualify for contract labor. Or I'm sorry, that they don't qualify for contract labor, that they are indeed an employee.
And that's based on what we're actually having them do, and how long, how many hours
And
they're
how
doing
they
it.
get their instruction, there's a lot
Exactly.
of. there's-
The
there's
equipment that they
about
use.
5 or 6 things that go into it, is that
Yeah,
right?
I think it's because they don't have employees working under them, and workers' comp insurance comes into play.
Well, I think that has to do with exempt and not exempt, what we're talking about is,
Yeah, but
contract.
Contract.
It's on the contract too,
Right.
they have to turn in now, workers' comp insurance, that they carry their own workers' comp.
But you're right, the hours, the supervision, control,
Most of
yeah.
it comes down to, if you're paying somebody for this many hours of work, then they are not a contract person, that is an employee. If you're giving somebody, say, all right, I want this task done, how much are you charging me for this task? Then that can be a contract in the simplest form. But I don't know what the interactions are in either of these positions, so, I don't know if they qualify or not. But if we're doing it strictly by the hour, then yeah, we're out of bounds, we have to.
Well, but we've already had 2 studies, and one of those from the league,
Yeah,
which
Said-
says that these are not contract.
okay.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, is that they have recommended that we move those to employees.
Now, so I want to go to my second question here, if I may. So establish that those 2 people are not really contract, based on the 2 studies, and they should be part-time employees
Or
or
full-time.
full-time as needed.
That's correct.
Okay, now, the essential, or the basic function of Valerie in particular here is public information. That's the primary function, manages the town website, but she also is the so-called brand manager and handles all the branding and all that stuff. She does a lot of work production for Parks and Rec on signs and other aspects of the town on producing signage that incorporates that branding plan and so on. Why would we have proposed her in an economic development department as opposed to public information or something under administration?
That's where her fund was always taken out, or her money was always taken out of that department, so that's where I left it. So there's,
So we, so,
so I don't know why.
say that again?
It wasn't always under economic development. In 2010, economic development was created as a line item in the budget, and I, along with the chamber and the NAHAC grant, were put underneath economic development.
Okay.
It used to be under administration,
As what?
Contractual.
contractual.
Oh, just contractual, okay.
Started out at
All right.
19.
Do we have a position for public information officer or public information specialist or anything like that?
No, we would create one, ask the board to create one.
Okay. Do you have any concept of what the minimum, midpoint, and maximum salary range would be for a public information specialist or a public information officer versus what we're calling that position in economic development? Is there any concept for comparison of the two and the price range, or salary ranges?
Yeah, the department title doesn't matter. We could put her anywhere for, that job position will have a mid-max.
Well, I
Yes, the
understand
answer,
it would have
the short
one.
answer is yes, we have considered where that would
But you
go.
draw this from somewhere on the recommended mid-max and.
That's correct.
Minimum max.
Yes, and we have a recommendation from David Hill on where that would fall under our scale.
I think what John might have been asking was, would she be an exempt employee or a non-exempt employee? Is that what it was? maybe?
No, I
No,
know
he was-
what that is. What I was asking is like, all right, a lot of people use a lawn service, contract lawn service. All right, I want my grass mowed, once a week, and I'm gonna pay you this much to keep the grass up. Well, that's strictly contract. But if you got somebody that's gonna say, okay, I'm gonna mow your grass and I'm gonna charge you $15 an hour to mow your grass, then that's that's different. That has to be you have to take out the.
The league does have a checklist that they.
Right.
That's what we've used, yeah.
And the big thing was, the workers' comp, how many
Right.
workers do you have? Do you have workers working under you?
Right, and that determines whether or not they would be required to carry workers'
Yeah.
comp, or whether we would be required to pay the workers' comp if they didn't have it.
That's right, that's
Yeah.
the way I understood.
Yeah.
But a good example is David Hill gave us with Valerie was that, we say 20 hours, we choose the stories that she works on, she gives it to us to review. Normally under contract, there would not be any of that. She would write the stories, post them, et cetera.
Right,
So we are controlling her work, and that's what this position came down to.
okay.
Yep.
I understand.
Well, I am not ready to agree to not implementing that part-time and going back to the contract and taking that 10.7 into that amount. I am not ready to agree not making Valerie a part-time employee this year as we had originally planned in this budget. My holdup is I don't think Economic Development Department and whatever title that carries with that position is the appropriate position. I think she's more a public information officer or public information specialist.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And somewhere, there's gotta be job position titles showing recommended price range and minimum
right.
and all that. And that's what I wanna see. I wanna see that comparison, because my concern is, are we bringing her in at the right amount? And so on. That's my concern for the job, or for the function.
And that's fine, and we will, once we feel comfortable that the board is going to approve going from a contract to a part-time employee, we will then produce that work for you, and the board will need to approve it, probably in July. She will still remain a contract employee until you create that position. This is the first step of that process.
Well, I feel it's a must that we bring her in as the part-time and fix that problem. Because next year, we're gonna be dealing with it with John at the dam, or if it's not John, somebody, that position. And we've got to fix that, because there are certain ramifications to not doing it if certain things happen. So,
Is there consensus to make that change that can be done now so we can move forward with the other information before we approve the budget coming up?
Well, if you don't cut that $10,700, then I will go ahead and move forward with planning to have that as a part-time position. And so we will go ahead and set that up. If you decide to use that money somewhere else, then I will say we will probably proceed with a contract, and I won't go to that next step.
and what I'm saying is, if we agree to the part-time position, it may not be that same amount of money that we're looking at here.
Right.
We call it on those looking at that
I get
comparison.
that, I get that, but we came as close as we could,
Right.
and if you do something different with salary, then, we would make that adjustment in July.
If there is a consensus here today, can we take that action, or do we need to vote on it, or what do we need to do so you can move forward?
Don't cut this 10-7.
My consensus is create the position.
That's all,
That's my feeling.
I agree.
Okay.
We have the money in there to do it.
We have the money in there, it's budgeted in there now.
Okay,
But what the board asked me to do was find some areas that I would cut,
right.
and that was one of the areas, to take it back to what we're doing now. So
Okay,
if you're okay with that, I will just mark it off the list.
Now,
Yep.
if you need 5,000, I'll tell you right now where to get, well, I'll tell you in a minute where to get $5,000 at.
I don't need it yet.
Ron,
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, as you and I talked about this, that figure doesn't actually change what I call my take-home pay. The reason that the 10.6, doesn't that reflect FICA and the taxes that you all have to
Yeah.
add to
Valerie made
27,000?
a request regarding her salary, and so what we tried to do in here is just honor that. If the board decides that they don't want to pursue that, then Valerie will have to make that decision.
Right.
So again, this is just budget. This is taking what we know is a problem and fixing that problem, and that's what this budget does.
Well, my response to you is, I agree that the position should be created to fix the problem. You're the person coming into that. I'm waiting on comparison information. I can't guarantee you that the salary number will be as shown in this budget. But again, that's something that would have to be discussed at that point in time.
My request was that it try to stay at 27,000. That was my request.
Her take home.
I asked my wife for $50 lunch money. Do I get it? I got you. Taken
Okay.
care of. Yeah, I think the position ought to be there.
All right, is that everything? Okay, we talked
Yes.
about community development. Page 119 is Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Actually, Dale's here, and I hate that you're having to sit through all this. Was there anything with golf that,
Well, where are you at?
He's only another couple of pages.
he's a few pages back, but
Oh.
is there anything with golf that y'all had?
Well,
I mean, I know he's got a lot to
I'm
do.
gonna say this, I'm gonna say this, and this is really for next year. Dale is under that $75,000 subsidy from the town to manage the golf course. And I think he's done a pretty dadgum good job of it. We're probably not where we want to be in the number of rounds of golf and foot golf, but they have increased steadily over the years. What I noticed, and I asked the question of Ron not long after he got here, and asked the question of Dale back a few months ago, is regarding the equipment that he uses, which is town equipment, a good part of it, but we weren't even paying maintenance on that equipment. We weren't even taking care of the equipment he was using. He's supposed to take that out of 75,000. This year, and I guess last year, there's a total of 81 in here, which takes care of some of that. But I think next year, that entire budget needs to increase by another $5,000 minimum. And for next year planning. And I'm gonna say that now. I don't think we can do it this year, but I think that needs to happen. If you look at profit that Dale and his wife are living off of from out of what we're giving them, talk about underpaid for the amount of work that goes into something, there's a damn good example of it.
Right.
And I wanna put that on the record, so.
We do appreciate what you do, and like I said, the course standards now are much higher than they've ever been, and it's just, and what people have to realize is this is a draw to Lake Lure. This gets people here. We have a wonderful lake, but when you get through with the lake, you got Chimney Rock and a golf course, so, we need to keep supporting that draw, and
There's a lot of times we have the husbands play golf and the wives go to Chimney Rock and shop.
I'm one of them, by the way. Yeah.
So Dale took over at a time that there was a lot of pressure for us to develop the golf course into something else more profitable. And it had been a drain for a number of years, and his hard work and good management has turned a lot of things around. Our ultimate goal would be that the golf course supports itself and Dale in the manner to which he would be happier. But that golf course's survival has been due to what he has accomplished there.
And that's why the town went to the subsidy and the arrangement, it was to try to keep it. It's done great, I think, and I just think, budget-wise, we need to step that up. And I think it's well-deserved and well-earned, so.
Anything you want to say to us, Dale, or?
Well, we support, or we appreciate all the support that we get from the commission and have for the 5 years now, been going into the 6th. We've got 2 years left in this current lease, and I did give Ron some information of what we're thinking, of what we'd like to do going forward beyond that. And we'd like to think that we've turned the tables in a sense to where the golf course is more valuable to the town again, and that the hard work that we're trying to put into it is gonna be able to keep the golf course going after we're done. We both just turned 60. Yeah, I work a lot of hours, but I love doing it. I know I can do it for another 5 after the 2 are up, and that's what our hope is, that we can come to an agreement to push this out 7 years of our operating the golf course and leave it in good condition for someone else to continue what we've done. So anything that can be done to help us out, we certainly appreciate it.
And I'm also gonna say this for the record, and concerning reorganization. In my opinion, golf, recreational asset, Flowering Bridge, tourist attraction and recreation, walking through the flowers, whatever, and lake, recreational asset, should all be under Parks and Recreation, along with all the parks and trails and stuff. All of that's recreational assets. That should all be one department. In reality, based on the type of attraction and what they have to offer, and that's my opinion for reorganization. So.
We appreciate it, Dale.
Even if you
do drop the 5,000 out in the capital for the cart path repairs, we take that into account, and we don't expect it. We'll go out and we'll make some repairs ourselves. We do have a number of people that walk the golf course for exercise, especially from the lodge. They come over and they're used to walking around the golf course, so we know that's a safety issue for them there. We do have a number of older people that take carts, obviously, and they always complain about the areas, because if you don't drive off the path to get around them, it's a pretty good bounce. But, you know, that's in our minds, that we know we need to fix those things, and so if we're not given the 5,000 as help, which another 2 was gonna come from us for the base work, we'll understand that, and we'll take care of it to the best of our ability. What we set up was a 5-year plan. I went out and surveyed the entire golf cart path system. I determined, you know, X amount of feet need to be replaced or repaired, and then divided that by 5. As money is available, then I would take the worst part, fix that, and the following year, blah, blah, blah. That's how we set that number up.
Well, in addition to maintenance, I'm wondering and would be interested in the future in the need for improvements that would generate additional income. And in order to increase the profits,
We know that we're at a level of cost to the player that we have to improve conditions to another level in order to be able to charge more money. We know we've hit the top by going to other golf courses around the area. And so that's part of the idea of redoing these bunkers so that they work, drain correctly, and look better, improving the fairway turf and things of that nature. And obviously, all that has costs involved with it. I work each week on a list of, here's what we got to do, what money do we actually have available coming in to take care of these problems. And hopefully, my experience over 40 years of doing this, you know, I can continue to make the snowball get larger and larger to where we're able to charge more money. Obviously, we need more rounds. That's the easiest way to do it. And as we continue to grow slowly, that helps. Obviously, the off-season, when there's just us that live here, we need more rounds that way. We are getting more people that do come over from the resort to play. As we get older, our golf course is slightly easier. So we have seen that and heard those comments. And that's great. We appreciate the new people that come. They've lived here for 20 years, never played the golf course, drove by it 100 times a year, never stopped to play. Once they play it, they appreciate the design. It's a beautiful design. 1927 it was designed. You don't get to play that type of stuff that often.
and there are many people in town who have been here, about that long, who just don't want to see the golf course go away.
That's right. It's too nice to go away, and that's why we fight so hard to keep it open.
It's a part of our history.
That's right. It's one of the oldest assets of the town.
You still gotta build a tennis court before you can sell liquor.
Yeah, we'll work on that still.
That's a county law. You can't serve booze because they don't have a tennis court.
Well, let's move the tennis court.
Yeah.
18 holes or 2 tennis courts.
That's not
What
rocket
about a
science.
pickleball court?
It's not written in the statute, so they probably wouldn't allow it.
So if we turn this into the pickleball court, we can put the tennis court down there.
I was gonna do 2 grass courts in the practice range and charge $250 to use them, $250 to use them, so nobody would play, and then somebody said, they'll probably make you put the fence up so that they're permanent.
Yep, yeah, exactly.
That's a minor problem. The other things that we've asked for, obviously, you know, looking at the food service potential, you know, there's some revenue there, obviously. We do have a couple of weddings scheduled this year where people are gonna get married on the 4th tee, which is a beautiful view up there, and then have a little reception in the clubhouse. I've actually got a hot air balloon coming. A guy's gonna take his, well, soon-to-be fiance up in the hot air balloon and propose to her up in the air.
From the golf course?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Did you get clearance for that?
Well, I didn't know if I needed it, so that's why I threw that out there, to see if anybody was gonna
Wow.
raise their hand. But, so we're actually looking at that, and that might have some potential there for Friday night rides. Go up and down, not
Right.
anywhere.
don't know if you have control.
So, you know, there are other things that we're looking at. We got a qualifier scheduled for the end of August to qualify for the National Foot Golf Championship. And just trying to build on little things to
Great.
get more people down here for whatever reason.
Super. Foot golf amazes me. I'll see 6 and 8 people out there
Yeah.
playing that and just walk.
Tourists,
Yeah.
it's all tourists, family reunions, bachelor parties.
Are we still drawing students to the golf course?
Well, we had the first year of a team for the school, and we've offered them, reduced membership fee for the summer, and I'm hoping when school's out, that 3 of them that live close by are gonna join. During the season, they played and practiced for free. And hopefully the team will continue next year, and we think it will, because the people on the team were 3 7th graders and an 8th grader. That was the high school varsity golf team, so it's a start.
Right.
It's a start.
And if I recall from one of the Parks and Rec meeting, as far as golf teams or learning golf, you had a problem with females not wanting to do it because of peer pressure
Yeah,
at the
girls
school
at the
and stuff
school
like
didn't
that.
wanna go out for golf,
And
yeah.
did you get, we talked about trying to arrange for some female pro to come in and speak to them and
Haven't
give them
done that
incentive?
yet. Haven't done that yet. Pete Richardson was the golf coach this year, and he's since moved away.
Mhm.
And so, in a sense, we'll be starting fresh again, and hopefully I can push them to do that.
I wonder if we have some physical education classes or teachers that,
We've offered to have them come over and play foot golf, starting on number 5 tee, which is right there, and then same with golf, and we take the balls out there, we take the clubs out there. We haven't had any interest yet. They do use the golf course part of it for cross-country, the cross-country meet that they host. And, golf scholarship, the easiest one to get is women's golf, and that's the thing to push it,
well, if you just tell that to parents, that ought to,
you would hope. Yeah.
Esther, you looking for a new career? Go get a scholarship?
I've never held a golf club in my life,
Time to start.
except putt-putt.
That's a
And
start.
I'm bad at that.
I'm very bad at putt-putt.
Tennis player.
But again, we appreciate everything that, all the support that we get from the council and the town itself, so we're happy to be here.
We appreciate it too.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
So we haven't taken the cart path.
No,
No.
you
Out.
haven't, you haven't messed
It's
with
there.
it.
I understand, yeah, I'm just saying, if you do, if you need to, we'll understand.
So you would get the 81 plus the 5 for that job. The 5 wouldn't come out of the 81 is what I'm saying. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, the subsidy to us is the 75, and then the 5 of it is for building maintenance or
Or
whatever.
machine-
There's a
equipment
constant
maintenance
there
and-
For contract,
Right.
which I'm not sure what we define that as, but that may be
That's the
the pesticide.
pesticide, yeah.
One last question. Do you get much use of the driving range?
Oh, yeah.
You do, okay. Just can't see the people from where we are. That's why I didn't know if you did or
We
not.
have, I think 8 of our members have range memberships where they can hit all the balls they like. And, we probably go through 100 dozen balls a year.
Mhm.
Well, I'll give you these.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Thanks, Deb.
Yep.
Parks and Rec, page 119.
Welcome, Melody.
We have adjusted the salaries and benefits for the cost of living adjustment, the increased allocations to ground maintenance and contractual services in preparation for the World Equestrian Games is included, and there's an additional $10,000 for the Flowering Bridge Committee. So those are the major changes.
Now, that 10,000 on Flowering Bridge, we have not previously ever funded the Flowering Bridge. That's a new line item that I requested. Again, it's gonna come up, you're gonna have a briefing during the council meeting on the Flowering Bridge and the original fund, the original plan, the amount of money they borrowed from the fund or was given from the fund, and how much they repaid, and how much they've invested into the Flowering Bridge, and probably well over 10,000 volunteer hours, you can't even value. You know, you can't place a value on. I feel we need to fund this because of the benefit it does give to the town overall. We are funding the electric, which is according to the original agreement with the state and the Flowering Bridge that the town pay for electric. We also give them the water, and we just put some new water lines and are in the process of extending some water lines and stuff.
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
We hit solid rock and couldn't trench on across there. So I think their plans is to come back and ask for the meter to be relocated from where it is now over to the.
Well, is it a matter of running a line from the meter under that road and across, and that's where you hit the rock?
Yes.
Hey, can you not go around it somehow? Is there some way we can determine how large that rock is and maybe find an outer edge and go around it?
Well, there's no way of knowing until you get in there. You know, we trenched probably 25 or 30 foot with no problem.
You mean Dean's new drone can't figure that out and tell you where that rock is?
If it will, then I'm interested in using it.
Oh, we don't have X-ray capabilities on that drone? Man, okay.
We got out there, and I'm serious, I mean, it was to the point we were gonna tear our trencher up.
All right.
If we continued, so we quit.
Yeah.
And, I'd actually got a message from Kathy earlier wanting to talk to me, and she said that if they were wanting to know about relocating the meter, so.
Well-
That'll ultimately have to be a decision, I guess, that y'all have to make if you wanna do that.
How many more feet you gotta go?
What, the existing road that went across there, we never even got in yet. We went as far as we could go one way, then turned around, went to the other side of the road and tried to come back, still didn't have any luck.
Okay. But anyhow, I've mentioned, I think to all of you before, the old El Sereno property that we own that's being used as parking. I would like to see the Flowering Bridge take that over as public parking and do something to spruce it up, to make it look a lot better prior to the equestrian games and all the influx of people in town. So part of this would go to that, but I think that money is well spent on such a fantastic attraction for the town. So.
Where are we attacking these invasive plants at? What's our target area now on them?
Well, down at the dam, Morse Park Gardens, which they're almost under control there, but it's everywhere. I mean, the kudzu is coming over the plants down at number 96474.
Right.
That, they've sprayed that, spots.
We've done one side of number 9, but all has to happen is a bird fly over or the wind blow the seeds over when it blooms and
I'm
we
not
have it
sure
again.
that was us. Was it, Marianne? I think that was the weed.
That was the weed, yeah, the weed folks.
people.
Yes, it was, because I paid for my portion
Oh,
of it.
yeah, you did, but you did.
And part of this money.
You're saying now the left-hand side should be done.
I'm saying the other side is
Yeah.
defeating our efforts.
Part of this money is to also go from the intersection at number 97464 to the town center and then back towards the golf course.
Okay.
And to use,
Weed.
is it WECHA? Whacken?
Yeah.
Weed Area Coalition?
Yes.
Those
Hickory Nut
folks to
Gulch.
help us with that.
They
Yeah, I just
found
want-
that the original plan to use the goats didn't work out because the goats were getting sick eating stuff they shouldn't have been eating. So they had to go to spray.
Right.
And your property looks good, but across the road is the problem.
That's what I said, and I've noticed that on the other end of the bridge, the Sheehan property, that was once cleared and underbrushed, when, in this last rainy
Yeah.
spell, it has covered up.
Well, you know, the more trees we cut, the more, the more that the kudzu loves it,
Right.
because it's happening on
They want the
Too.
sun,
Neighbors cut trees and now it's coming out.
right, it starts on the ground,
Yeah.
and if there's a tree, it climbs the tree, you can at least cut it.
I was just curious where we were attacking it.
Another thing that Melody asked for, and Parks and Rec asked for, is a part-time position, which Ron did not recommend, and based on monies available and so on and funding. But it is truly needed. Now, we can't, I know it's difficult, but I don't know how much part-time we're looking at, whether we're looking at 20 hours a week or 10 hours a week or what. Think about the increase in maintenance. I think Melody told me here last week that she did a little in-house or personal study, and you mow, what, 15 acres? 15 acres a week she's mowing, or they're mowing, plus the routine maintenance, and that's also, I guess you have to go through and empty all these trash cans that are out in the receptacles, or somebody has to go in.
No, that's contracted out.
Oh, okay.
But you know, that doesn't include the weed eating.
Right.
And then the pruning, the weed control, the flowers that we are maintaining. And then I'd like to speak to that is the World Equestrian World Championships are coming. And we've been charged, and we have been given an extra $19,000 for beautification in the town. But it's hard to do it
Without the people.
without the people.
Right.
And a lot of that would need to be done this fall so that it could be ready for grown in and, mulched and everything. And it looks like it, we just didn't throw it in there like 2 weeks before we got here. But then next summer, there's gonna be a lot of extra work to maintain all this beautification that we're gonna try to do for the World Championship.
And the games are in August, late August, or
September.
early September? Yeah, so, yeah, and you're right, you're gonna be going through the summer right up to it and everything. But if there's any way we can find that part-time, it's really needed, period.
That was a seasonal part-time from April through October.
And what kind of hours are you talking, or thinking?
2, isn't it?
They can only work 19.32 hours a week.
19.32.
So let's say 19, so we don't chance going over that, or 18 hours a week. I mean, that's a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
What was the total cost of that? Was it 12,000?
It's about 15.
15?
That's with benefits and all?
FICA.
Well, they don't get.
Just FICA.
Well, I recommended the 10,000 for the Flowering Bridge, and if you pulled 5 of that out to go towards that to help. 10,000 that's on here is something they've never gotten, so if we reduce that to 5, then they're getting 5 they never got.
And we need to.
But then 5 of that could go towards that funding, that part-time position.
Because if you think about how many volunteers you have on that bridge
Oh, I know.
to maintain that area,
Now, how much involvement do you have in that at all?
I don't know.
Okay,
Well, we know, we do mow and we do weed eat the banks.
Right,
on
that's
both
what I
sides of
thought,
the road.
yeah.
3 sides of the roads right
now, and then also with the increase, now, do you maintain any other park areas besides Morse Park and around the beach area and?
Dipner Watts, and then we'll be taking care of the new ABC store when it comes.
See, so that's increased, and then how about Luremont Trails if that's developed? Would you have any
Yeah,
responsibility? How about Buffalo Creek Park, anything there?
the volunteer, God, who are they? AmeriCorps.
Yeah.
They kind of have taken that on and they do a good job and they take care of that.
Now, the individual in that, Hallie, is leaving that position in August, and I assume it's gonna be refilled, the
Correct.
position. But do we know anything about their funding, or are they looking at taking away any funding and possibly that asset to us?
That I have no idea, but I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
With this being primarily summer season, I wonder if there are any opportunities we could look into in partnership with any of our community colleges or colleges for work study, where students could help to pay their tuition through this
Have
work.
you ever looked at that? I mean, we've thought of it. We've thought of it.
You also have a 5,000 for contract services. If you had your part-time person, is that contract services a person? Or supplies or material?
No, that I don't know.
I mean, if we reduce that 5,000 for contract
That's
and
your
apply
invasive
that 5,000 to
That's the base.
part-time,
That's the invasive plant
Oh, that's,
stuff.
Oh, it was 7,500.
oh, that's the invasive?
Yeah.
okay.
7,500 was.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, yeah, you got recommended 7,500.
Oh.
That's, you're telling me is,
The weed.
oh, invasive plant.
Yeah.
Damn, weeds are worth that much?
Well, my little bank down there on number 9 has cost over $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I need to go into the weed business, growing weeds.
Sell 'em.
But besides that, I'm just concerned of how we can get the beautification and the continued maintenance done without that extra help.
So we need seasonal,
Yeah, because,
Yeah.
Public Works, we're down people anyway.
how about how about the law enforcement,
Well, if,
Oh, those people, yeah.
Oh, the criminals.
Community service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
criminals.
The criminal people.
oh,
State doesn't allow it because of all the laws now.
Right.
They
well,
have
not
rights.
necessarily the criminals, but the ones who are,
work release, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand, I looked into that a couple of years back and asked Chris about what was here, and what I found out is now if you use inmates for that kind of work, you have to actually transport them. You have to pay for the transportation now. You have to go pick them up, bring them, take
I
them
wasn't
back.
thinking so much inmates, but
Yeah.
speeding ticket, work it off.
Oh, community, sir.
Well, Mary Ann, those people, not those people, but. I would rather do it myself, if you know what
I
I mean.
understand.
You can't
rely on can't.
community service,
Well, no.
they'll say they'll be there and she's planning a project,
Yeah.
and then they don't show up.
Volunteers will work better than those that are there against their will.
Ron, if we take the 5,000 out from the 10,000 off the Flowering Bridge, as Steve recommended, we need to put 10 more thousand on the budget item then.
Yeah,
I
actually,
think,
the request was for 13.5.
Okay,
Okay,
so 13.5 would take care of that part-time is what you're telling me.
right, and then take away 5,000 on the Flowering Bridge, transfer that
So
to
that'd
here.
leave 8.5.
Right, 8.5.
So we're gonna reduce,
Yeah, yeah, FB down 5 and Parks and Rec up 5.
yeah.
Oh, well, that's Parks and Rec down 5 for Flowering Bridge, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good.
And then we
Then
need,
you're gonna increase part-time
right,
salaries.
up
That's up.
83 or whatever that number was.
So
13.5, yes, would be. Yes,
So that,
That'd help offset it a little bit.
right,
that gives you, what is that, the 5,000 will take you to 10, so $3,500
right,
adjustment to this number.
right.
And that's what you wanna do?
If everybody else, but I agree, I know what the maintenance is.
Okay.
13.5 include FICA?
I have to trust y'all that the numbers are right.
Well, if you wanna play it safe, do the 15, I mean, you know, it's, that he said,
It
total.
said part-time 13.5.
When,
I think we budgeted it for that, didn't we? The whole thing?
Yeah, requested was 13.5, but that didn't include FICA and stuff, did it? Or did it?
I would assume it would, since it was in the budget. I mean, I don't know.
I'd have to go back and look at our budget.
You had
So
a workshop.
when I subtracted
It was an old one.
the request and then.
Well, see here, no, because look,
recommended, it was 15.
Yeah, that's not on there though.
yes, here it had the 81.4, which was there, but then all the other stuff was added afterwards, so.
Our worksheet had the, full-time, didn't it?
Well, we can allocate a number, I mean, and use it till that number runs out.
Yeah, that was.
Yes,
Yeah,
because it's,
yeah.
you know, it's hard to, especially if it's a college kid that they do walk in the door at April first, and
Right.
then, you know, they,
So that's,
Just, is that okay with y'all, just allocate a
that
number
would
and
be
then you just use it
14,
till you use that up?
4.2.
So allocate 13.5?
Yeah.
Okay,
They're good.
and then once 13.5 spent, they're done for the year.
14.5?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so it's
That help?
14.5.
Got it. Oh, he just went to,
Yeah.
well, you okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine,
14.5.
Yep.
So it's 9,500.
right.
And where do we have that we can get that from?
You don't tell me, 9, 16. So now you're at 106.3. Can somebody add that and just make sure I got it? So take 97.8 and add 9,500. Make sure.
What does that number represent?
That'd be 107.3.
That's over what was budgeted.
Is that that's not a general fund?
It should be 107.3, Ron, if you had 9,500.
Okay.
Did you include that?
No, that's what they have to pick from. No, that's not included.
Okay.
So you have
That 25 was a wash, we said.
25.
Yeah.
Right.
So 97.8, what do we say, plus 90?
95, yeah, that's 107.3.
107, that's fine.
Yep.
All right.
And how much of it do we already have there?
Well, if you take 43.6, the 25, which would be 68,000, you've already taken that off. You've got still identified 40,000, so that would take you to 108.6 roughly, maybe 109,000. So you're right there at it, and that takes out the
Right.
cart pass, the beach house, the radios, and the 10,000 for the tennis courts.
So that's,
But you still have several departments left.
right. So anything from here digs into,
Anything here now digs into your other number.
right. Yep. Money goes fast. Tell people we live on vapors.
And again, you know, I'm just telling the board, you had a lot of requests for part-time help.
Right.
So you need to decide that this is more important than those other part-time positions.
And here again,
Well,
What
we're
we're
almost
adding
through all the
to them.
departments.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about all those part-time positions either, so.
Oh.
I'm just saying that this was not the only request that we got.
right, I understand.
Okay.
Do we need to talk about the others?
Well, it depends on how much money you want to talk about, so.
Well, do you know off the top of your head what those positions were for? Or who they were for, or,
It'll take me a few minutes to get them.
you know?
Andy, do you have that original list? I remember, not Andy, I'm sorry, Anita. I've done that twice. The part-time.
Not right off, they didn't really come to me, did they come to you with the part?
Let's see, the one that really jumps out at me was Sam's. Sam asked for, well, we had the account position.
But we're contracting out for that. And from what I got the other day was the quality of the work we're getting is worth the amount of money we're paying, and is the quality of work satisfactory? And Sam said yes. Correct?
I'm just giving.
Yeah, that was last week.
Oh, okay.
We need to have another discussion.
You
We'll
can't
look at it
change.
again next week.
Yep.
But, yeah, okay, and what else?
Well, I don't wanna do that now, so let's just keep going.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, let's finish up what we got.
all right. So, we good on Parks and Rec?
Yep.
Beach and Marina?
Yep. Okay.
So we already did golf.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melody.
Are we taking the cart pass out?
Yes.
It hasn't been done yet.
Okay, we're not.
Beach and Marina. Any questions about Beach and Marina? It's a very small budget.
Right.
I missed them. Oh.
All right, we've been golf,
All right.
lake.
Yep.
Any questions about lake? Again, if you'll notice, operationally, nothing changed except for the addition of the silt removal. That's why there was such a large increase. On paper, it looks tremendous, but,
And we now.
400,000, 350,000 of that is dredging.
And now we reduced that 350 to 325 today.
325, that's correct.
And so that'll get us to the 300 that we have to spend and leave us a little bit of extra, so we can at least get that 150 grant back, so. And then maybe next year we can go the full amount, and plan for it. But we're getting there. Same
Is that-
question to you, Dean, as everybody, is anything in here that you recommended or requested that did not get recommended in the final cut?
No, sir, everything stayed the same, pretty much on the operational budget that, was requested. Only thing that, we differed on a little bit was salary and wages, which I don't have any control over that. Ron reduced it by a little bit. I don't know what he's done there, but,
Well, that was the 2.5 to 1.
That was the COLA decrease.
COLA.
Yep.
and then the only other thing was adding the dredging funds and then reducing the dredging funds, so mine stayed basically the same, and we're good with that.
Where does this, we get that 150 matching fund, where does that credit show up more?
Here it don't, we have to spend 300,000 this year,
Right.
and then after we've spent that 300,000, then they will reimburse us that half. And then next year we have, it's actually on a 2-year deal, we
Right.
have to
Right.
do 300 this year,
Right.
300 the next year, and then we'll get 300,000 back.
I'm just saying there's 150 a year credit.
Right, that'll
After we
come
do this.
into, where do you put that when it comes in, Sam?
It's in, under revenues, under state shared, revenues,
It's already figured in.
yeah, it's figured.
That doesn't show up
Right
as a
here.
grant?
Yeah, it's
does.
underneath that, it's
Yeah.
right here.
It's in
at the
revenue.
end.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, page 2 of 13 on the big, the
Yeah.
small spreadsheet.
But that doesn't show up in this budget, that 150.
Yes.
It does.
In the revenue side, your financial plan.
Wow.
Yep. That's just what I was asking, is where it was.
Yeah, it's,
Right there.
That was above
It's
my
accounted.
pay grade, too.
Mine too.
That's 100 fund balance. There's a state grant.
He's got a sheet right here, can show you.
I don't know if you.
What about this?
Oh, that's one of those originals.
There it is,
Yeah.
150, state grant.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I was looking right over it. Okay, any other questions about Lake?
So I guess it doesn't matter at what time of year that we get to that 300 point that we spend. As soon as we have spent that 300, we file for that reimbursement. Okay, or that grant. Okay, got it. Okay.
That brings you down to page 143, which is your capital projects. And again,
Well, thanks, sir.
before we move on to water, sewer, and hydro, I want to wrap up the general fund.
Well, I wanted Dean, I guess, to hang around on capital projects.
1073.
Right.
Let's see. Your debt service is gonna stay the same, because by state law, you're required to include your debt service. So if you look at page 146, there were certain projects that I did not include in my list to cut, really because I feel strongly that we need to move forward with them. So you'll see that total of the 264, the ones that I had put up for consideration was the tennis courts, cart path, beach house, and radios.
Right.
Got us pretty close to the numbers that you needed. So if you take your 1073, you subtract out the 43.6 that we know we've got, that brings you to 63.7. Subtract out your 25,000, brings you to 38.7, which brings you down to capital. Back out the 10,000 for the tennis courts. And your beach house will get you 30,000. And I'm just saying if we leave the cart path in.
Right.
And then your radios. So if you took out these three, you'd still have to find a couple $1,000, which is just some rounding.
That takes us back to your increase. Just kidding. That's not funny, right?
No. Been a long week, hasn't it, Ron?
So minus 10,000,
Miss lunch about twice a week.
minus 20, minus 56. All right, so you're at $3,100.
That we need to find?
Yeah,
Right, now that leaves.
leaves the
in-
cart path
That
in.
leaves in this.
Yeah.
And it leaves in 10,000 for tennis courts, or only takes out
It
10,000?
takes out 10,000 for tennis courts, it takes out the 20,000 for beach house, and it takes out 5,600 for radios.
Okay, beach house, that's the repairs on the main beach house?
Yes, sir.
Now,
That's 3,100 that we still need to find, or we're
Yeah.
3,100 above?
3,100 that you
To
need to
find.
find.
We still need to find.
Right.
now, can we take that money out of capital reserve and use it for this other stuff? Cause that's all coming out of that 264.4 that was all the capital projects, which was at
You know,
3
actually,
cents.
That's a good question, because what happens? No, because what you would do is just take the money that you approved for capital, and that's how much we're willing to transfer to the capital reserve fund, is that correct?
So what you show here is proposed isn't gonna bind us to anything it's not already in capital reserve.
That's right. Everything that you've transferred up to this point.
Right.
Is not affected.
Got it, okay.
All right, so what we would remove is the tennis courts for 10,000, the beach house, and,
Right.
yeah, radios.
Yep.
Now, I can go in there and find,
So that'll leave 25 for tennis court. That'll leave 25,
no, because what you did is your Parks and Rec small area plan, that's.
We
that
spend it
25.
over there.
You spend that,
so we're taking tennis court altogether out.
that's correct.
Right, but it's being used for your long-term plan, 25 of it.
25 is being used for the,
For the Morse Park plan.
Yes.
correct.
Mhm.
So if you want me just to find the 31, that's pretty
Yeah,
Oh.
easy.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay. All right, just so you know roughly where we're at.
We
great.
took out the radio replacement,
All right.
and we took out the beach
Yep.
house repair.
Done good.
Okay, thank y'all. So that takes care of general.
Great.
Okay.
You'll go to page. Donnie just loves having to wait for the last one.
Yeah.
Last.
Well, maybe we ought to put it in alphabetically.
Water and sewer are first. Actually, Donnie gets to go with the sewer too, so.
What page?
Page 157 is where it starts. If you want to go to page 160 is where the manager recommended. Now, let me just say a quick word about this. Water and sewer and hydro, you're doing pretty well on. So you will notice that some of the money actually wasn't spent last year, but remember, it's in its own fund. So anything that is not spent goes back into the fund equity. So it just helps your fund out.
Right.
So even though we budget $4,000 or $5,000 for a line item, and you didn't spend anything in that line item, just know that that can't be used over in the general fund, vice versa. It can't be swapped back and forth. It's gonna stay in your water sewer fund. So,
I know that you still don't know what the shaft's costing on turbine and things like that.
yeah, water and sewer, the big ones, of course, were your, green line hit this year,
Right.
which was just a huge expense. And water, let me look here real quick. No, water was good, cause there was really hardly no change, and then your sewer was the green line. Really bumped you up on green line.
Right.
Oh,
Now, some of that green line money may not be spent, because of the, depending on when the loan's approved by LGC, depending on when we get all the contract documents filled out. Instead of that number we have in there for the budget, it could be plus or minus.
oh, I don't, well, okay. Are we in water department? We're in,
Water and sewer, yeah, it's
Oh,
the same
I'm-
fund.
161.
what happened, we skipped non-governmental, okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
The water, I'm okay.
Hey guys, it's Courtney, and I'm back to give you a sneak peek of the bracelets that all monthly club members will be receiving this April. Let's get started! First is the Pastel Days seed bead. The seed beads are always my favorite, and I love this month's. The pastels are so pretty. Next up is the Just Peachy Braided. The seafoam, yellow, and peach colors are fresh for spring, and the braideds are always perfect for stacking. And last but not least is the Hibiscus Booty Charm. I know you guys love the charms. This one is so beautiful. Who doesn't love rose gold? As always, these bracelets are all exclusive for club members, and your monthly purchase helps provide jobs to over 130 artisans in Costa Rica. And if you're not a member, sign up by the end of this month, and your first pack will include this set. Thanks for stopping by!
People's lots are more of a private issue, working it out with their neighbors. But once they decide, oh, well, I'll just bypass my neighbors and put it in the lake, they're on town property.
Yeah, we have a policy in place that regulates that, Donnie can explain.
And it lets that one across from me float up and down and go
Well,
under the
that-
boathouses?
That was done some time ago, it hasn't been recently.
It has been.
Donnie?
Say again,
Is that still happening?
allowing PVC lines in the lake?
Yeah.
Well, it's still in our ordinance, yes, but in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, before we go green line and make sure, that's taken care of, we better get the PVC lines out of the lake, period. If the town has to pass an ordinance, the homeowners are to make their lines double iron, or whether the town just does it themselves, and, because that's where your lake water infiltration comes from, and anytime the lake goes up, goes down, and then once we start having to pay sewer bills to town of Spindale, we need to make sure that those sewer lines are.
I know,
Yeah,
one like Mary Ann's talking
opportunity
about,
is
that's an
this-
existing line, isn't it? Was it
Yeah.
inspected this inspection cycle?
Actually, when the lake was down, we went around, we followed it out through there, and it was down at ground level, but when the water came up, I know exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah.
That line came
Floated.
right to the top, and I think Ron has asked Linda to get in touch with the property owner and to tell them that they're gonna have to get it down.
Right.
But
I believe it's the house on the other side of Lucy that had their septic tank fall in.
Yeah, the health department told us it had been there for a little while, so that's all we can go. And now what we're trying to do is work to get it back down.
Well, it was put in there after that wall was built.
Okay. What I will say is from administratively, that there are a lot of changes that will likely take place in our water and sewer department, meaning that there's a lot of policies that need to be updated and some, I guess, changes in the way we've handled sewer, especially in the past. And again, I've shared this with all of you. We're going to have to broaden our, I guess, our responsibility when it comes to sewer, meaning that we're going to have to figure out another way to handle sewer outside of the lake in these subdivisions. Because you're right, I think we've just allowed over time a spaghetti of a mess, and it's caught up with us.
And nobody knows what's there, and who
Yeah.
it belongs
Yeah.
to, and how many people's there, and you.
Yeah.
Well, we could simply, we could simply impose a moratorium on any new sewer lines in the lake bed to begin with.
Right.
And,
Well, you don't wanna, if somebody's doing it right with the
Yeah.
ductile pipe, you don't wanna prevent that.
That's right.
You just wanna make sure they're done where they
Can I make a
work.
recommendation? That's what the utility board is for. Let's task the
And
utility
I thought we
board
had the policy that said ductile
to
iron.
review the
Well,
The
it's-
policy.
policy is, yeah, cause I
But
know,
I'm just talking about the old stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Existing,
All of it
right.
needs,
we
Right.
just,
all the
but
plastic needs to come out.
going forward, we're okay, we
That's
just
right.
need to go back and address the ones that are,
Right, well.
there was one just 2 or 3 years ago across from me that was put in that was PVC.
Water down the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you just said it needs,
Eliminate that.
Well, I know the one on my side of the lake that runs from my neighbor down to the manhole, over time was required to have something secure it.
Yes.
It's got posts or something in there. But this one over there is just laying there
They're supposed to be 3 feet.
in front of a number of homes.
I was gonna say,
If I were one of those homeowners, I would be raising Cain.
well, how do we need to address it, Ron? Of course, the waters, we've got an opportunity this fall, the water's going down.
let's just identify them this fall and then
And
also
just
require
Can I start identifying them now, and put
Right.
put the folks on notice that it has to be corrected?
this
that,
fall.
Well, we need to make sure that we can actually do that. There's some regulations that prohibit towns from going back and making somebody redo something, so, unless they're causing a problem.
Right, it'd be only the
well-
problem ones that you would.
Yeah,
If
so,
there's- if
But
the sewer
shouldn't
line's
they-
floating, is that not a problem that runs
Well,
to that?
yeah.
certainly, but, they throw some sandbags on it and they're done. So we need to address that just one-on-one with the property owner.
Well, it's something that, I think should be a priority, because we've got this window. If we don't do it
Right,
this winter, it'll be another 3 years.
that's right. No,
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, and that's gonna take some time to phase out the plastic.
Sure.
stuff. So ductile iron is so expensive, and there's, so many long runs of just
Yeah.
PVC laying the ground, it may cost somebody $70,000-$80,000.
I was gonna say, if it's existing and working and not a problem, we don't need them replaced. It's the ones that are floating and issuing a problem, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say probably, of all the calls we get, it's all PVC lines. Snug Harbor's a big problem,
Well, if it's some that the town allowed to be put in like that at that point, and now we're saying, okay, the regulations need to be more restrictive, we need to have the iron ductile, it may be that the town needs to absorb part of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And say, okay,
We gotta
we-
find some medium, because we
Yeah.
have to start paying our sewer bills to someone else, another entity.
Yeah.
Every gallon we can save is
The
money for us.
yeah, the reasonable approach just needs to be, somebody needs to get their arms around it.
Right. So
And
what-
if people are putting in lines without a permit, and they're just doing it, and it's there,
Is that
is there
continuing to
no
happen?
recourse?
Not that I know.
I wasn't aware, I haven't heard of anything
It-
like that.
I'm sure away from the lake it happens, but if somebody sees it in the lake bed, they have to have divers and stuff put it down while the lake's up. And while the lake's down, if you see somebody going across your cove, digging.
Yeah,
a sewer
somebody's gonna
line,
report
somebody's
that.
gonna call.
Yeah.
What was the Stelling line just put in? Was it iron ductile?
No, it was at, 8 feet,
HDPE.
put 3 feet deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about the mags?
They put in ductile.
Yeah.
All that's
So what-
ductile iron.
what
And
you'll
both those
see-
were engineered as well.
Yeah.
So what you'll see is us working with the utilities board to revise those policies.
Right.
And you'll be seeing them this year.
Good,
Yeah.
Good.
good.
Any questions about water sewer? It's sort of standalone.
I
but-
don't.
Okay. Electric, of course, the big one, that's still remaining, we continue to fix the small generator. It does allocate $50,000 in funding for the repair and maintenance of the dam, and it will transfer 39.8 into a reserve fund for the electric, for the hydroelectric dam.
Yeah, we don't look as good this year in that as we did last year.
That's exactly right.
Because
We did
of
make
the lack of rain.
$44,000 last
Yeah.
year.
Huh?
So we wrapped it running, we did make $44,000.
Awesome, yeah.
Great.
That's awesome.
Great.
So again, we've got some work to do in there, but my suggestion is to go ahead and pump any additional revenue that comes out of hydro back into the dam operation
Right.
and capital. So,
Right.
so that's what we're going to do, if that's okay with the board.
Sure.
Okay. Are you okay with the rest of the budget that was recommended versus what was proposed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And sometime in the next 4 or 5 years, they're gonna need to redo that high voltage primary coming out of there, because all that cable's deteriorating, so I'd like to just put that on your window, that the primary voltage output
Oh.
cabling, and also the old switch gear in there, that's a blue light specialist.
One of the switch gears was replaced, and it blew up actually
Oh.
back in 2000.
I believe it would, yeah.
And all the lines from the generators to the switch gear.
Any quick update you can give us on that generator shaft?
But it's all down at Powerhouse Mechanical, and they were still, last I heard, they were still working on, they were doing the turbine first, to make sure that they get it where it needs to be. And then they were working on the shaft, but we took them probably 100 other pieces, bolts, with eccentrics to make, brass bushings of various sizes, control arms.
ETA on return?
I told them I needed it done by the end of June. Now, they had to, they weren't planning on originally doing the new shaft and having to turn it down to 14-inch stock. So, but they're still trying to get us everything back.
Any anticipated cost issues versus the kind of money allocated last year for stuff and what's been spent and
For
what might?
that project in particular,
Well, regarding this project, remember, we went into this not knowing.
right. Well, we know what Powerhouse is gonna charge us, and the cost to put it back in should be substantially less than what it costs to take.
Okay, what are they gonna charge us?
What are they gonna charge us? They're charging us per hour as well.
Oh,
Oh, are you talking about Powerhouse?
yeah,
I think it was about 9,000 to do the runner, roughly 9 to 10,000, and I think the miscellaneous parts and shaft and all, I think it was 56.
I guess what I'm looking at is, that's current year money right now. Any anticipated shortfalls over what we might end up having to pay versus what was available and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, Donnie and I are gonna work through that, and we'll do a budget adjustment.
So we don't know right now?
I'm just looking for any big surprises. Do you-
No,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
already-
that's what-
Other than putting it back in, we know what it's gonna cost to get us to that point.
Okay.
But as far as, it may take a week and a half to put it in, it may take a week, it may take 3 weeks, just depending if there's, everything fits like it should, is machined the way it should, and the tolerances is close enough. I mean, it could take us longer than we anticipated.
I know I used to take apart my daddy's electric razor and watch, and they never would go back together the same way, so.
Have extra
I got it,
parts.
I understand.
It's called operator error.
All right, so the only change to your hydro fund will be that $25,000 that will go back towards that study.
Right,
Got it.
All right.
yeah, be glad that's done.
Capital or debt service. Mary Ann brought out at the last meeting about the no-brainer on adding, additional docks to the marina. And I spoke with Dean, the maximum we could add is like 40, slips. But I understand Ron Morgan says that if we go out that extra 115 feet, then we're gonna have some kind of a fire suppression system. Anyhow, the bottom line is, the current debt we have is $65,000 a year, or a month, or a year? Year, and that's gonna be paid off in another 5 years or so. I propose that we solicit bids on adding those slips totally as a loan type debt service type project. Even right now, paying out the $65,000 a year, we're still making 27 or 30,000 a year profit on the current slips. We have 40 people on a waiting list. Even if that's rented at the minimum of $1,100 per slip, we're gonna be making money, and it's worthwhile. And we do the loan over a 5-year, or to end the same year that the other one ends. Make it to where we do it that way. And so I wanted to propose that we task Dean to get bids on that.
I've got a bid there in Ron's hand, and it's from the same company that has built this dock. The story on these docks are, there's only a few manufacturers that actually build these kind of aluminum docks around the country. One of them being Alumidock, Wahoo Docks, and FSI. These docks out here are built by FSI, which is out of Alabama. And the way they do it is they have a contractor in certain areas of states that cover a certain area that, like on Lake Lure, the contractor would be the same contractor that built these docks here for FSI. So if it's an FSI dock, it has to be that contractor that does it. He's the only one in
Got
this area.
Territorial, they have their territories,
Right.
districts, right?
So one of my questions is, that we'll have to look into, is can a different dock manufacturer, or will another dock manufacturer add to a dock that's not theirs? That's a question that we'll have to look into as far as getting separate bids, or,
Oh, I was looking at through the same vendor.
okay. well,
That's
I've
what
got-
I was anticipating, so we get the same match and all that stuff.
Right, because if you hook somebody else's dock to it, you may
Yeah.
void warranty on what you've
Right.
already got out there.
Right.
So those were some details I would look into.
Well, we would just need to call the school government, because
Right.
there's only certain reasons we can not follow the
Right.
bidding statutes.
Right.
Oh,
It
okay.
might be a-
It might be a sole
Yeah,
source.
sole source.
Right.
So what we need to do is run that question by the school.
Okay.
Right, those are
Okay.
some of the details we need to work out to make sure. But the bid I did get was from FSI, and, it's, their, bid was gonna be, $147,880 to build the two extensions. It'd be one on Dock A that would
Be 20 there and 20 on the other.
20 on Dock B. But then Ron Morgan threw in to me, that they were gonna need a pipe that they could pump water from land, a fire pipe, that they could pump water from land out to the end of the dock, like a fire department connection, a dry hydrant or some sorts. Why could we not just stick a pipe in the lake?
Thank you. Right there at the end of that.
I'm just saying, right at the end of the dock, build
Well,
pipe.
let's,
Let me back up to
let's
my
just-
original comment. Ron Morgan came to me and said, we need to do this. I've not had time to look into it. They're busy on their fire inspections right now, so I haven't got that. So what I projected with Sam this morning on some numbers, I went from the 149 and I just set up to 160,000 as a rough number.
Fair buffer.
Okay, Sam says we can't finance less than 10 years, was it?
I don't know, that's something we,
'Cause it's-
LGC,
That's something to look
Banks.
into, and my original plan was do it 5 years and pay it off at the same
Same-
time.
yeah, yeah.
But if we can do it, but let's just say it was 10 years, if that's the way it has to be, at 5% interest, the payment would be $20,400 a year. Adding the 40 new slips, which we have 42 people on a waiting list wanting the slips, the revenues would be about $48,000 a year.
Yeah.
To pay back that $20,400 dollar
Yeah.
loan per
So
year.
I agree, it's a no-brainer, and I think we should do this.
so we wanna add 160,000 for the,
But it'd be financed, financed.
This is total loan, it'll all be debt service,
that
Right.
includes the design, engineering.
everything.
Right.
That's why I think we should go ahead and proceed with getting a bid, and that's what I wanna get to today is say, let's get the bid.
All right,
Right.
just so y'all know, that'll tie you in to that 20,000, 21,000, whatever it ends up being, payment for the next.
Right, but it pays itself.
I know.
We're just getting the bids at this point, right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
correct, yeah.
Right,
What
so
I
we're
have
not
to do is-
adding anything
I have
to the
include
budget.
That is your loan
Right.
proceeds.
Right,
Huh?
I understand.
It's gonna be a wash
No,
Well,
If we
Be
get,
built next
if
year.
we, if this gets approved and stuff, I can probably have it built before next summer.
right, yeah,
Okay, so one fiscal year.
yeah.
Cause all they
That's
have to
correct.
do is bring it in and hook it to what's there.
Right.
build
What
it
they
and
do is
rebuild
they
it.
build it in Alabama and actually assemble it.
Right.
And once it's done, then they take it apart, load it on the truck and bring it here. and
Because they make sure everything fits first.
All right, so I'll add $160,000 loan proceeds.
Right.
Okay, all right. Good.
Very good. Do you guys wanna bless this thing, or?
Oh, no.
So the 3,100, we'll figure
Y'all
out.
wanna do that?
I just had one phone call this morning, from the bank. We locked in our loans at 3.5%, and we had
Is this
a
mine?
fire truck that came in late, and they rose our rates to 3.75. It's not a big thing, but I'll do a thing as
So we
the,
need to adjust that for
yeah,
next year.
but it's not a.
This shows you how far it would extend to versus current. You wanna pass that down? Look
So with
at
that
it.
said,
Gives you an aerial
Yeah.
of the line of land.
So with that said, what I will do, adjust these numbers, and on June 13th, this is the budget I'm presenting to the masses.
Okay.
Yeah.
For y'all's consideration during the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree, that's
Sounds
a
good.
no-brainer on the marina.
Yep.